Well, thank you for joining us here this morning in Pasco County. My name is Mark Ellis. I am the Chief Resilience and Sustainability Officer and the Director of the Organizational Performance Management for Pasco County. I think you can probably hear me without that. Yes. So, our mission here in Pasco County is to, who knows it? Okay. Serve our community to create a better future. That's our mission. And today is all about that future. So thank you for being here. It wasn't that many years ago that here in Pasco County, the operation was much what you would expect from the governments of old. We were really all about regulation, compliance. In fact, usually the first answer we gave to any question was no. Now, over the past decade, we've been able to turn the organization around because our focus has been on people, purpose, and performance. Now, we do a very good job providing our services today. In fact, our services that we provide are based on customer requirements and on their satisfaction. But as we look at the next evolution for the county, we have to start asking a very different set of questions. Instead of asking, what do we need to do to provide a particular level of service, we need to start asking, how are we going to continue to provide this level of service well into the future in the face of all the things that we know impact and or will impact our business, whether it's global warming and sea level rise, the next pandemic, whatever that happens to be, whether it's unfunded mandates or economic downturns, or whatever the next growth scenario happens to be for the county. And so these questions we begin to ask, we have to embed in all of our planning, and that's what we're doing here in Pasco. The board, county commissioners had the insight to establish an Office of Strategy and Sustainability, which our charge is exactly that. And they also established a separate group for our grants and a grants team that is going to make sure we're doing the very best we can with the funds that we are given to use for this purpose. So a very big focus from our board on the future of Pasco County, and that's really what we care about. So while the answers to those questions are going to be very complex, on behalf of the board and the county, I want to thank all of you for being here today because you're part of the solution, and that's really what today is about. So I appreciate that, and we appreciate you being here. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Ren Kroll, the Executive Director for the Tampa Bay Regional Planning Council.
Good morning. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
How about this? Is that better? I'm Ren Kroll. I'm the new Executive Director at Tampa Bay Regional Planning Council. I'm 3 months in, but I'm 25 plus years with the TPRPC. And the Tampa Bay Regional Planning Council is now 62 years old. And it was formed to represent, we currently represent 6 counties and 21 municipalities. And there's a couple of other municipalities that we would love to invite to be part of that group. And one of our big focus missions at the council is to convene partners and stakeholders. And it's not lost on me that we've been a partner with the Economic Development Administration for many years, and of course in the arena of emergency management. So today is a perfect partnership, and it's a great event to hear what you all have to say about the impacts of the valley. And I would like to take a quick moment to introduce the staff. Sarah Vitale is our planning director with TPRPC. Amy Bidwell is our senior hazard mitigation planner. Brian Ellis, standing up back there, is our emergency management planner. Harry Walsh is our economic development senior planner. And online, I have word that Carol Lucera, who is our director of resiliency, is also in attendance. So we're all here to hear from you. And if there's anything we can do at the Regional Planning Council for the community, please let us know. Thank you. Milton's up next.
If you don't mind, I hope you can see me here and you can hear me okay. I'm standing here. My name is Milton Cochran, and I am serve as the field coordinator for the economic recovery support function, serving Florida in the aftermath of Hurricane Iberia at the request of FEMA. It's my honor to be a part of FEMA and the state team as we together work toward helping Florida communities build a stronger future. In addition to serving as the field coordinator, I represent the U.S. Economic Development Administration, EDA, as the Economic Development Integrator for 8 southeastern states, including Florida. In this role, I work to connect communities and state leaders with federal resources, not just available through EDA and our home agency, the U.S. Department of Commerce, but all of the other federal agencies with resources to bear when it comes to economic development. This is very much in line with what the mission of the Economic Recovery Support Function. First, I would like to thank the Tampa Bay Regional Planning Council for their partnership in bringing us together today, and we are also grateful to Pasco County for hosting us today. We have several representatives of federal, state, and regional agencies charged with distributing important resources who have joined us in the mission to serve our youth, many of whom are us today, either in person or online. For example, we are truly grateful for FEMA, of course, and also the U.S. Department of Agriculture, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, the U.S. Small Business Administration, the National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Administration, the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, the U.S. Department of Interior, as well as our agency, my agency, the U.S. Economic Development Administration, along with Florida Commerce, Career Source Florida, Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services, Florida Division of Emergency Management, and of course, the Tampa Bay Regional Planning Council, to name those who are found as VIPs today. I know there's a number of others on the call, and if I apologize if I left off any agencies. As I mentioned earlier, the Economic Recovery Support Fund has been activated by FEMA, which is led by Federal Coordinating Officer Brett Howard. Joining us today is our Federal Disaster Recovery Officer, Emily Young Henson, and I believe she's online. And if you would, Emily, say a few remarks on behalf of FEMA.
Good morning, everyone. I'm sorry, I'm having some technical difficulties this morning. Thank you, Milton, and greetings to everyone this morning. Thank you for having us. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I'm just getting feedback on my side. I apologize, but just a little bit about what we do in this arena. FEMA is one of the many partners that support survivors in state, local, tribal, and territorial governments in recovery. And as you all are all aware, we have the Stafford Act programs, which are PA, public assistance, individual assistance, and hazard mitigation, who are the first arm that you see in recovery. And the long-term recovery portion is the IRC, which is Interagency Recovery Coordination, which we coordinate the support of federal and non-federal agencies to achieve the recovery outcomes to help you all be more resilient as moving forward. And Milton listed a long list of partners that we all come together to support the communities to help them to build back better. Some of the things that we do are to help to deliver tangible assistance to the state and communities that have been impacted, to enhance coordination across the federal, state, and other federal, FEMA, state, and other federal agencies. I'm sorry, I got a little ahead of myself. and to identify resources to help help the impacted communities to recover. He already reviewed the recovery support functions, and the one that belongs to FEMA is community assistance, which many of our community assistance staff are there with you today. But we are so pleased to be here with you. Hope that we are here to listen to your concerns and your issues that you may have had after Hurricane Idalia, to see how we can help you to. We know that it's not if a storm happens again. We know that something is going to happen again, but we want to help you to be more resilient going forward. And in closing, I'll just say our goal is to help is we want to achieve recovery best, and that happens best when it is federally supported, state managed, and locally executed, because we know that a disaster starts and ends at the local level. So with that, thank you, Milton. Thank you, Pasco County for having us. And if there's anything we can do to assist you, please let us know. Thank you.
Thank you so much. This mission would not be possible without the amazing partnership with the state joining us today. And I'm not certain if Doug is on the call, but joining us today, if Doug is on the call, over Doug is with the Florida State Disaster Recovery Coordinator. Welcome his comments if he's on the call this morning. Seeing that he's not, now I would like to introduce my colleague with FEMA's Community Assistance Recovery Support Function. Sloan will share with you how FEMA Community Assistance can best support your efforts during this mission. Sloan,
yes, sir. Good morning, everyone. I am Sloan Griffin with the Community Assistance. We'll do it without it. So I'm Sloan Griffin with Community Assistance with FEMA. You just heard from our FPRO, Ms. Emily Young. Now, I promise to be real quick this morning, but I want to be real thorough. Just to explain to you about community assistance. I got a visual that I will show you. I do believe in visuals. That you know, see who we are and what we're talking about. Okay. Cool. So, as you heard from our FPRO, there's 6 components to the recovery side of the IRC, the Interagency Recovery Coordination Group. And those 6 there on the screen, you're here today to meet with economic recovery. I and my team back there and some other folks in branch 3 represent community assistance. When we look at this list, I want you to think about something as you get into your conversations today. I know we're here to talk about the economy and the tourism and the loss and what you want back. What do you want to see back in the form of economic in your community? But I also want you to think about the health and social services in your community. How was that affected? How was it affected before a hurricane, just by natural causes? But after the hurricane, how was it affected? But look at your housing, your infrastructure systems, your natural and cultural resources. That's important to the tourism piece here of Pasco County and your surrounding neighbors. So as we engage in these conversations, think about those 6 core functions a little bit deeper. There are some other conversations, and we'll be back, my team and I will be back here April the 17th to talk with elected officials and county emergency managers with our state partners from IFTAN. So when we look at whole community, what does that really look like? You know, what does it look like on blue sky? Well, it's not really blue sky outside today. It's good sleeping weather. But on these days like this, when you're preparing for the next, this conversation is gearing towards in that preparedness realm. We're recovering, but you're thinking about preparedness also in your conversation. Disaster strikes. Recovery looks in the days, weeks, months to years. Recovery is no time. Recovery depends on the execution of you all on the local level. The federal government, FEMA, we support the state to help manage, but the local execution is on Pasco County. But we're gonna do our part to help you prepare for that next one, to support the state, to help you support. Today, we're focusing on scoping and recovery requirements. So we wanna hear, we wanna get you engaged in conversation so that my partners here, the economic recovery end, as well as my team in the back, we can pick up on these things so that we can go to work on behalf of the state to help bring those tools and guidance back down the pipeline. You heard this before, you're gonna always hear it from FEMA. We're here to support. We're not here to tell you what to do, but we're here to support you on how you wanna lead your recovery. Make sense? So CA, my last slide, promise. CA, so just real quick, I believe in breaking this down so you know exactly who you're talking to and the capabilities of who in FEMA you're talking to. The CA, the Community Assistance RSF, unifies and coordinates expertise in the assistance programs from across the federal government, as well as non-governmental partners to aid local and tribal governments in building their local capacities to effectively plan and manage recovery and engage the whole community in the recovery process. So think about that, keep that tune in your minds and your thoughts and your background today, tomorrow, and in future conversations, the whole community. We're here to support you. Thank you for the moment, thank you for the time, and we look forward to continuing to support and help you prepare for the next disaster. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sloan, for those. Yes, thank you very much, Sloan, for that extended explanation of CA and its role in this recovery effort. Why are we here today? Purpose of why we're here today. To gather and validate information about the impacts and issues due to hurricane impact. Identify resources needed to address the unmet needs and to connect you to other federal, state, and state programs and contacts for advancing long-term economic recovery. Now, without further ado, I would like to turn our session over to Greg Bidet. He is Economic Development Representative for Florida, who will serve as the MC for our time with you today. Greg.
Thank you, Milton. Good morning again, everyone. My name is Greg Bidet. I'm the Economic Development Representative for the state of Florida for the U.S. Department of Commerce's Economic Development Administration. What does that mean? It means I'm your point of contact for grant opportunities, project development, anything to do with EDA program funding. I'm the sole point of contact for Florida. So easy situation that we have here. We've got a very linear hierarchy at EDA. So why are we here? I wanted to follow up on what Dr. Bella said, and I just happen to be sitting, or our team happens to be sitting in the finance section here. I don't have a bag of money with me, or my checkbook is a little light today, but we will get into those programs and opportunities that our federal and state partners can help you with. But why are we here today? And I think Dr. Bella's said it perfectly, and I'm going to use your remarks, Dr. Bellas. When when disasters hit, whether they're natural or man-made disasters, EDA, as we've heard before, becomes mobilized by FEMA. And thank you again, Pasco County, for hosting us. Thank you, Tampa Bay Regional Planning Council for coordinating this effort today. We're mobilized to provide support, economic recovery support. And the central question that I'm going to leave with you all today, just going to really hope to animate the discussion, is what does economic resiliency and recovery look like in your community? And that's the central question. Because what matters to Pasco County in terms of all the things that underlay the concept of economic recovery and long-term resiliency is going to look very different from Miami-Dade County. And it's also going to look very different from the Big Bend of Florida, which we just came from. The needs here are unique to this geography, unique to the set of assets that you have in Pasco County, the wonderful natural resources that you have, the talents, the workforce, the economic structure, and the will to engage in this long-term discussion about economic resiliency. So as our good friends at FEMA said, we take a holistic view of economic development too. Now, that doesn't mean we fund affordable housing projects, because that's going to be a HUD activity, for example. But we do acknowledge the fact that you cannot have a resilient economy if you don't have housing to provide for the workforce. You cannot have a resilient economy if you don't have a skilled and trained workforce, especially in the industries that are going to be creating high value added jobs, such as aviation and aerospace. Florida is a leading state in aviation and aerospace. Logistics distribution. Florida Makes just put out its 2023 manufacturing report for the state of Florida. Florida is now a leading state in manufacturing. So these are some of the things to think about from the standpoint of economic development. A lot of things underlie it, as I said. So what we're here today is to learn about what are the unique items, issues, opportunities that Pasco County and its communities are focused on to drive long-term economic recovery and resiliency forward. It's a long process. It's not an easy process, as Dr. Bella said, but it is a process that starts from our standpoint with the discussion today with our federal, extended federal, and state and local partners here today. So the way this meeting and workshop is going to work today is we're going to allow the elected leaders from Pasco County and the communities to discuss some of the issues that they're working on in the aftermath of Hurricane Idalia. What were some of the critical issues that have affected this community, this region, because of Hurricane Idalia? We know, for example, that infrastructure has been impacted. We know, for example, that there's been stormwater flooding. We know, for example, there's probably been dislocation. We know, for example, there's probably been impacts to the housing stock and things like that. So we know some of these things because we've had discussions and we've done our own research, but we're here to really understand from you all if those insights that we gain are valid. So we want to validate those initial insights. Then we want to, after we've heard from the community, we want to spend a little bit of time talking about the resources that each of our individual agencies brings to the table. So for example, EDA, can everyone hear me, by the way? Is the sound okay? Okay. So EDA, for example, provides support for economic development. As I mentioned, we don't build housing, we don't put blue tarps on the roofs and things like that. Those are functions of different federal agencies. We're focused on economic development. And so that means for us, we can entertain grant applications on the non-construction side and the construction side. So let me give you a couple of examples. On the non-construction side, in the aftermath of Hurricane Irma, which hit a good portion of the state a few years ago, many communities desperately saw the opportunity to kind of rethink their economic structure. Monroe County was hit hard, and they came to EDA and they asked us, they said, Greg, can EDA fund a post-disaster redevelopment plan? Because we know we've got a whole host of interrelated issues that are going to drive this recovery. So what did that post-disaster redevelopment plan encompass? It encompassed housing. It encompassed, as Sloan said, health and human services. It encompassed infrastructure. It encompassed economic development. It encompassed broadband. So that's just one example of a non-construction related project that EDA funded. Why are post-disaster redevelopment plans important? They're important because many communities in Florida, and I think Dr. Bellis, you said it very well. They relied on population-driven economic development. We're going to build out more retail. We're going to build out more roads to serve the population. Well, that's not a sustainable activity. A sustainable activity is building out your industrial base so you have a diversified economy, so that if it is hit by, thank God, hopefully it won't be, but we don't know, right? We're not Nostradamus here. We don't know if there's going to be another calamity, whether it's man-made or naturally induced. So by having a diversified economy, your economy is not going to suffer as much so as if it was a solely tourism-based economy. And a lot of communities in Florida are tourism-based economies. They live and die by the tourists that come in. So that's just one example of communities really starting to, as we say, look at these events as singular moments of opportunity. In other words, as Dr. Bellis said, and when I went to planning school, it's a paradigm shift, right? It's a paradigm shift. It's a chance to look at things differently, to execute differently, and to deliver differently. And I think that's the mindset that we're here today. So on the construction side, what can EDA fund, and what has EDA funded recently in light of hurricanes and other important issues? We fund workforce training centers. We work with the great 28 across the state of Florida, the 28 state colleges. Workforce training is a singularly important activity to promote economic development, not least of which economic recovery and resiliency. I had one community after Hurricane Ian hit, tourism-based economy. I won't tell you which one it was. They came to us and said, Greg, we're a tourism-based economy. We've got industries coming in from aviation and aerospace. We need to build more opportunities for A&P mechanics. That's aviation, airframe, and power plant mechanics to support the growing maintenance, repair, and overhaul facilities that are coming into our county. So what was the application? The application is to build a maintenance, repair, and overhaul facility at a major airport in Florida. So that's the project under consideration, for example. So workforce training is a singularly important activity for economic development. We just announced funding just a couple of days ago to the city of Longwood. City of Longwood has an industrial park. It's called Bennett Road Industrial Park. And very much like the scenes that you see here projected, that industrial park was inundated with stormwater as a result of Hurricane Ian. So the project that the city came to us was, right, can EDA help us replumb the stormwater system? Because we've got companies in the Bennett Road Industrial Park that want to expand, want to bring more jobs in, but they're not ready to pull the trigger because the infrastructure is not capable, is not resilient enough. So the project was replumbing or rehabilitating that stormwater system. So that grant was just announced a couple of days ago, and the city is off to the races, and we'll start working on that project in earnest. Why is that? So let's stop and look at infrastructure just for a second here. And I digress because I want to give you a little bit more insight into this notion of resiliency. So we're talking about resiliency. What EDA says, and all the federal agencies and the state agencies also say, but I'm only going to speak for EDA right now, is when you build out infrastructure, you want to build out resilient infrastructure. Why is that important? It's important because we want to know that you ask for what you need and you build to a higher level of resiliency so that you don't come back to us 5 years and say, Greg, you guys funded that stormwater project, but shoot, we didn't elevate the road an additional 2 feet. We should have elevated it an additional 2 feet. Well, the time to have those discussions is now. Elevate the roadway to the proper height. So what we say is build out resilient infrastructure, whether it's broadband, whether it's stormwater, whether it's roads, whether it's water, whether it's sewer. EDA, from a legacy standpoint, has funded lots and lots of industrial parks. That's been sort of a legacy operation that EDA has funded. Now, building extension, water and sewer extensions to industrial parks, and I know you folks have industrial parks in the community here. Let me give you another area that's increasingly on my radar screen for economic development. And I don't know if there may be some discussions about that here today. A lot of communities now are embracing innovation and entrepreneurship in a big way. So I mentioned that EDA builds workforce training centers, but I bet you probably may not know that we build incubators as well, business incubators. We've got one coming out of the ground in Tallahassee. It's the North Florida Innovation Labs. That project was funded in the aftermath of Hurricane Irma. It's a 40,000 square foot wet lab. Why did Tallahassee want to do that? Is because they have biotechnology firms in the region that are clamoring for space to test and perfect their products and delivery mechanisms. And the only way to do that is through a specialized facility like the wet lab incubator that's coming out of the ground now in Tallahassee. About a month ago, I was in St. Petersburg. We're also just capped off the Tampa Bay Innovation Center in St. Petersburg, which is a 40,000 square foot incubator. I had a chance to tour that and meet with the people that are running that. They've got people lined up out the door for that. So innovation, entrepreneurship is another pillar of EDA, is another successful way that communities are looking big and small to support an innovative economy and to support the startup capability in your community. So with that, those are just some small examples of some of the things that we're doing at EDA. But I wanted to give you some examples because EDA is very much interested in the whole array of economic innovation that is powering our local communities. And I think Sloan said it, and Milton said it. We don't tell you what to do. Federal government will never tell you what to do. I'm never going to tell you what to do. We look to your innovative potential, and we look for projects that are locally driven, that have come up through a rigorous planning process, that you all say that Dr. Bellis comes to me and says, great, we think this is one of the standout projects that we want to move forward on. Those are the kind of innovative discussions we want to have. So that's just a very quick overview. I didn't want to take too much time, but I just wanted to kind of sprinkle some ideas around the room here today. And I know that I guess David, I don't know if David Engel is here. Oh, but Cal, okay. Well, I've had discussions with David in the past about projects as well. So with that, what I'd like to do is now turn the mic over figuratively to the local elected leadership here to kind of hear some of the concerns that you folks are dealing with in the aftermath of Hurricane Irma, and what approaches and what ideas you're trying to put forward to help recover from and become more resilient to in the face of Hurricane Idai. So do we want to start with the county first? And do we want to start with the county first?
We
Want to start with the cities first?
can start with the
Cities.
Port Richard's here.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, do we need to?
Hi, Mayor of the City of Fort Richards. I also have my city manager here, Matt Copper. You hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
So I would probably say that the most pressing issue we have, obviously being right on the water, is the ability for the, as that water comes in, is to abate it as quickly as possible. And I know our stormwater system, there's quite a bit of work that we need to do with that.
Right.
We're going to add that, I guess, and that's probably the number one thing we need to do is work on the infrastructure. And I think as well, we talk about raising the roads and stuff like that. We've got that's in play as well.
Yeah, we had, does someone have the microphone? Or- Someone respond to that? Sorry about that. Mr. Mayor, so is it turned on?
Yeah.
Okay, there. Yeah, I appreciate you raising that issue. We had another community in the aftermath of Hurricane Ian come to us with a project to raise a lift station because it was close to the it was close to becoming, well, it was inundated, and they had to lift it to avoid saltwater intrusion and prevent the electrical building from being compromised. And that lift station then would power, the utility, the wastewater system for that community. So that's just an example of a project that we're currently reviewing right now. To your point, we realize that many systems are probably built in a day, didn't anticipate sea level rise as much as a pronounced problem right now. So appreciate that. We are going to have project sheets handed out later as part of the discussion, and feel free to put down some thoughts there about potential projects. So appreciate that. Thank you. Oh, they are, okay. Okay, all right. Okay, so.
Very good.
Yes, sir.
Hi, I'm David Allen. I'm the Utilities Director here in Pasco County, and we have, certainly being a coastal county, we have lots of challenges, particularly with hurricanes and things like that. Obviously stormwater and flooding are obvious ones because those happen on the surface. But I think there's also other things underneath the surface that impact us. So for example, we have a lot of lift stations that are on the coast, and part of our work that we're starting to do right now is just really evaluating those facilities that may be impacted, particularly because there's, on the one hand, we can build resiliency for those, but if the area is evacuated, then there's really not a need to have that facility in service. And so how do we manage that? And what are the things that we need to put into place ahead of time to bring those facilities back online sooner? That's one example. Another example too, and I don't think there's anybody here from Newport Richey. There is a wastewater facility that is right on the coast, and with recent changes in state legislation regarding discharge to bodies of water, we just had a planning session with the west cities of Pasco County, and that was one area of topic that came up is there an opportunity for us to maybe relocate that facility further inland so that we have more resiliency to that. So that's probably a need for us here in Pasco County, particularly from a funding standpoint, that we would want to take a look at and explore those opportunities as we look at options for moving that facility further inland.
Yeah, I think, and to your point, I think looking at the state of the infrastructure is a really important thing to do, because of course you want to take stock of what you have and how it's functioning and status and things like that. We did a project years ago, EDA funded a project for the city of Lake Worth, now called the city of Lake Worth Beach. They had an industrial park that was under private and public ownership. They wanted to optimize the ability of that industrial park to support more intense logistics distribution and manufacturing opportunities. They were impeded by the fact that they had a very narrow roadway which bisected the spine of the industrial park. So the project that they came to EDA to fund was to widen Falwell Road through the spine of the industrial park and allow stormwater, sidewalks, telecommunications, electricity as well along that newly designed roadway. Once that roadway was built, that allowed some larger scale manufacturing operations to come in. Why? Because the semi-tractor trailers didn't have enough radius to turn into the facilities because the roadway was too narrow. So that's a good example of looking at resiliency. Now, what I would say is at the precursor to that grant application, the city of Lake Worth Beach engaged in a master infrastructure study which looked at the infrastructure needs for that industrial park. And so that came before the application to EDA. So they actually did some pre-planning to say, hey, if we're going to try to optimize this industrial park, what do we need to do? It's not just about making the site ready, the pads ready, but making the public infrastructure which supports it also optimized and ready to support that. And EDA only supports public infrastructure. We don't build private. All right, so that's important. So the applicants have generally come to us from your standpoints, our cities, counties, towns, the state, and special districts and things like that. So I appreciate the insight into the infrastructure issues at the county level. Do we have any other city representatives here or online?
Very online. Real quick, if Brooke Hall is online with Army Corps, if you'd like to speak a little bit about your small projects initiative, if you're online, Brooke.
Hey, good morning. This is Rick Butler with the Corps of Engineers, Jacksonville District. Good to be here. Good to, can you guys hear me?
Barely, could you speak up, please?
Speak up a little bit, Rick.
Hey, good to be here. This is Rick Butler with the Corps of Engineers, Jacksonville District. I'm our one of our planners. I'm representing the small projects branch. Good to be here. I would like to just start off with, we're here listening. We're here to help you guys. I have a brochure that I'd like to hand out. I can send, I think I just sent it to Joy a couple minutes ago. I'd like to bring up and be able to show you guys. If you have any questions, we have, essentially at this point, we have a lot of things that we can do to provide assistance if need be, from our FPMS to, technical assistance to our continuing authorities program. So I'm here to listen and take notes. And if you guys have any questions, please let me know, and we can set up a follow-up meeting at your discretion, and we could talk about what would be the best path forward for you all.
Thank you, Rick.
So Andy Foss of Pasco County, Emergency Management. I'm the director for the department. So we're talking about, we always hear about surge, tidal inundation, and things of that sort that happen during a storm. Pasco County is one of the counties on the coastline that we don't have the ability to manage or watch any kind of tidal movement. Our tidal buoys are to the south of us in Pinellas County, St. Pete area, and to the north of us on the Hernando County, Citrus County border for the power plant. If we had the ability to have a couple of tidal buoys, actually I would like to see 4 in the county, and not only managing the tidal movement, but surge, winds, it would give us an advantage during storms. Number one, the movement of people being the most important, and safety. But number two, it gives the county time to react to, we need to start thinking about lift stations as we talked about. We have a giant power grid that sits right on the coastline, as part of Withlacoochee.
Yeah.
Withlacoochee Power, that we're trying to get a project to get them relocated or elevated. So with that being said, we're looking at a project I talked with Anthony earlier in regard to getting some buoys on the coast to assist us, which I would think be very beneficial. Number one, saving people. Number two, saving our infrastructure and protecting it prior to a storm.
I appreciate that. Can anyone speak to that issue more particularly? Yeah, I'm just wondering if our friends at NOAA. Heidi? How about the?
Hi, Greg. It's Kayla. Can you hear me?
Hey, Kayla. Yes, we can. Thank you.
Hi. I'm sorry. I missed the gentleman, the first part of his speak.
Yeah,
I understand that he was interested in tidal buoys.
Yes, he's gonna repeat the question.
Thank you.
Morning, Kayla, it's Andy Fossa. So, one of the issues that we have here in Pasco is we have no tidal, let me rephrase that. We do have one tidal buoy that's in the Cody River, which is inland, coming into Pasco County. And that one buoy, by the time you start seeing that buoy move and giving us readings, we already have water in the coast and on land. So what we're proposing is we would like to get some buoys off the coast of Pasco. I'd like to see 4 of them, one up Air Peak area, Hudson, come down Port Richey, Newport Richey, and down in the Anclote area. This would assist us, number one, in evacuations, watching the tidal movement. Number two, would also help us protect our public infrastructure, being our lift stations, generator stations, and Withlacoochee also has a very large power grid that sits about a mile off the coast. Every time we flood, that place gets shut down, so we're turning people's power off. So I was talking with Anthony from the county also about proposing a project that we can get some buoys in place in the county, because the only 2 that we really know of is one down in Pinellas, St. Pete area, and then one up in the Citrus Hernando area for their power plant up there.
Okay. I do not have expertise in that. I'm with the disaster preparedness program, but my role here is to connect sort of the common concerns with the appropriate contacts. So I am going to, I think I still have your email, Andy, with the folks at co-ops that sort of run the buoys that would be able to provide a better expertise here. But I think that's great, and I will relay all of this information.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kyle. Appreciate that. I just wanted to ask maybe Alan or Dr. Bellis to talk about your vision for economic development from Pasco County's perspective. Because I'm curious. That's one of the things that I always ask folks when they start a conversation is, what's your direction? What's your vision for economic development going forward? So if you don't mind, please invite me.
So I would ask if David Engel is online yet. He said he'd join us about 10 o'clock.
He's supposed to be here.
We'd like him to cover that.
Okay.
Let's go to the next question.
Well, okay. While we're waiting on David Engel, we just recently had, I believe I saw Nolan. Nolan here is with running our LMS group for hazard mitigation, and we have some projects that if you want to speak to some of those projects for the project sheets, Nolan.
Yeah, no problem. Off the top of my head, we're looking at supporting new facilities with generator power to protect them against power loss. The right across the street from here is a newly renovated citizen center that's co-houses sheriff's department and forward-facing county permitting, building construction services, things like that. They're in a need for a generator. 2 new
stormwater management projects are recently completed or will soon be completed that are in need of generators on their lift stations to further ensure that they're able to pump out during heavy inundation. And we're also looking across county at facilities that need new or upgraded roofs and window systems to protect from wind. That's going to be a set of facilities across the county that are county owned. That'll be a big project, but there's definitely a need across county for county owned facilities that are now aging that don't have the wind protection in the windborne debris region that they need. I've also, through the LMS, I have been working with the city of Newport Richey. They're about to break ground on a new fire station, I believe. Part of that new fire station will also need a generator to further protect against future hazards. So there's a slate of projects that are on our LMS project list, that all focus on increasing resilience in times of storms. And Anthony, I think I hit all the high notes. Was there a specific thing?
Greg, I wanted to bring up, because part of what Nolan's dealing with, Mayor Hoover, or he'd like to speak to one of those projects being your hardening for.
Actually, we are looking at two distinct projects, one for the roof systems on most of our municipal buildings, as well as backup generators for some of our facilities and lift stations as well.
That being said, we also have, as you've seen through some of the slideshows as this was going on, looking into the fact of the area of sea pines. There's a huge area. I know Cisco is here. I believe Jason Nichols online, our public works director. When we're looking at stormwater and just the stormwater surge and the inundation and how you see how far the water comes up just a few miles inland, the homes, the economic impact that it has on those, constantly, as you can see, anytime we have a storm event, things that push forward there, that economic and multi times that they've been damaged, that homes are underwater, that impact is huge. And when we have the aging infrastructure there that is anywhere between, Jason would be able to give a better information if Jason's online, but the infrastructure there is inundated with stormwater, and that in turn goes back to no infrastructure. You got septic systems that are backed up, the leach fields go back in there, and then all washes right back out into the Gulf, which then in turn, high bacteria rates on our beaches. We can't have, it affects our tourism. I mean, the storm is long lasting well after the storm has even the waters have receded. I don't know if it's Jason Nickel online, sir.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Can you hear me all right?
It's a little louder, Jason.
All right, I'll try. Jason Mickle, Public Works Director. Good morning. Thanks, everybody, for being there. Appreciate everybody's time. Sorry I couldn't be there. We have, like everyone else, some conflicts here in our office that I had to be at as well. But yeah, on our coastal projects, we have, just like most folks that are in coastal areas, we're vulnerable to just seasonal issues, but as well as some changing dynamics, weather patterns, things that are occurring that we're dealing with. But in that particular neighborhood, we do have a title issue that we are addressing through a capital program. That capital project is in the early phases right now. That we are somewhat underfunded at the time, but we are looking for opportunities to get that project off the ground here pretty quickly. And in the end, not to be a downer, but in the end, the project is still only gonna help about 3 to 4 feet above where it is. So there's only so much you could do in some of these coastal areas that were developed and built back in the 50s and 60s. times have changed and things have changed. So we're looking for the best path forward to alleviate flooding. We are also, trying to address water quality. As Anthony said, in many of our areas, we have multiple programs ongoing to address what leaves our community, what leaves our watershed, and enters into waters of the state and into the Gulf of Mexico. A variety of different programs going on in drain inlets, BMP with system, areas that we can incorporate some type of solution, either engineered solution or a natural solution that we could come up with to help improve water quality in the area as well. I don't know if that answers the question, Anthony. Is there something else you're looking for on that project?
Thanks, Jason.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Oh, City of Zephyr Hills. Do you like to say, make some remarks?
Sorry, this is Billy Poe, city manager. I just now got on my computer, but I've been on the cell phone just listening.
Okay. Do you want to say a few words about how the city was impacted by Hurricane Idalia and some of the things that you folks are looking to do to redress some of those negative impacts?
The biggest thing that we're looking at is just generators at our lift stations. That's the biggest thing that we have right now. We've not had any flooding issues. Typically, it's trees down, but the biggest thing that we're working on are generators for all of our lift stations so that our system can continue to run during, unfortunately, time of emergency.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
Is anybody from Dade City online?
So, the city of Port Richey is far behind in our infrastructure plan. Actually, we don't have an infrastructure plan. And I think that's one of the areas that as you look at trying to build the resiliency, we have a unique opportunity to start that planning process, whether it's stormwater, water, or wastewater, road system. Problem though is the money. These studies are going to run in the 70s, hundreds of thousands of dollars. I think we're doing about $500,000 of road work this year. And the only reason we're able to do that is because the federal government gave us a lot of money a couple of years ago. So, when it comes to, can we just, try to maintain the infrastructure we have versus start planning for the future, it becomes, do you want to eat or do you want to,
correct,
buy the medicine? And I think that's one area to get money in to look at that infrastructure going forward. From a stormwater perspective, we don't have a good understanding of where all the stormwater comes from and where it goes and how it gets there. We see it when we get a high tide, we see it when it rains a lot, but we don't really see it when it doesn't rain. And I think getting those studies completed are a top priority for the state. From an economic development standpoint, our waterfront area is probably the one area that stands to gain in development over the next probably 5 to 10 years. But we know that over time, that's going to be experiencing a large impact by rising waters and again the flood, possibility storm surge. Again, I think if we get into a planning process today to start understanding what we need people to do besides ourselves when they come in to develop would be very beneficial. Which I don't know, you talked about the recovery plan.
Right.
Is that something or any of those applicable to a recovery plan that we can get funding for through EDA?
Yeah, potentially, and that would be so from our standpoint, we would like to know, for example, how the project is going to advance economic recovery and resiliency, right? So you're looking at infrastructure and you're looking at systems. And you're looking at systems which will ultimately support further development. So yes, that's something we could certainly talk about, and you would probably want to put that in when we get to that part of the discussion about projects. And they do cost. Yeah, they could be 100,000, could be, multiple, levels. Can we fund something like that? We have, we can certainly consider it. Now, local match is going to be an issue, and for most granting agencies, that will be a requirement. Now,
What percent is that match?
with EDA, because we've exhausted our disaster recovery supplemental funds that we got in the aftermath of Hurricane Ian, we have regular programs now that address those various needs. So typically, the match requirement is 50%. So let's say if you have a, $400,000 study, so we always look at the total project cost. If you have a $200,000 study, we would expect the local match of 200,000, and then we would take in the 200,000 for something like that.
Greg,
Yes, sir.
could I ask a question? During our efforts here, we've uncovered a number of studies that have been done related to flood.
Yeah, I was going to segue into that discussion with that. Thank you. Thanks for reminding me. So to answer your question, sir, yes, we could look at that. I'll leave you my card as well, and certainly get in touch with me. But as a start today, just put a general rough description down so we can have that. Alan, go ahead.
I was also going to speak to, this is Alan Middleton with Pasco County. I was also going to speak to the topic of flooding and infrastructure. The other thing that's going on in the county is that a number of us have been working on the vulnerability assessments that are required by the state of Florida under the state statute. City of Port Richey you guys have completed your vulnerability assessment. City of Newport Richey is completing theirs at some point in the near future. We'll be completing, Pasco County will be completing our vulnerability assessment, which will be countywide and also inclusive of all of our municipalities, including St. Vito and San Antonio, in June. So the funding that we have for our vulnerability assessment also includes funding for an adaptation plan. The adaptation plan we refer to, we call it the Resilience and Sustainability Action Plan. So we're gonna, when we finish the vulnerability assessment, there's going to be a number of public workshops, including a county city, we kind of refer to it as an intergovernmental workshop. I don't know if that's really the right name, but it'll be a workshop where we want to speak specifically with our municipalities and other major stakeholders, agency stakeholders included. And the reason for those workshops is to talk about the vulnerability assessment results and then try to begin the discussion about what the adaptation plan might include. And then we roll into working on the adaptation plan through the summer and fall to be completed next year. So that's part of what's happening in the county. And I feel there's an opportunity there to also start talking about specific projects and areas of concern. That is something that we want to identify. So we're going to be taking your vulnerability assessment, comparing it to ours, and then having a series of meetings probably.
Alan, thank you so much. I want to turn to a couple of people online, but before I do that, I just want to highlight the resources that you have in the region here with the Tampa Bay Regional Planning Council, with Ren Kroll and her staff. Sarah, I know you folks have done regionally a lot of planning from a resiliency standpoint, stormwater modeling, things like that. Maybe you can say a few words about some of the regional initiatives you folks are working on.
Sure, and I'll also.
Here, actually, take the mic.
Yeah.
All right.
2 mics. Which one's best? Awesome. So yeah, thank you. And testing. So, thank you. So, recently, this team, the disaster recovery economic support function, has taken on a huge task of crosswalking several of our different resources and studies that we've developed over the years with other partners as well, Team the Estuary program. And I think I'll share that with all of you after this this meeting, but this one-page overview of all of those different plans and resources, so you don't need to go yourself and read through all of them. That was a huge task and thank you for it. But we, at the Regional Planning Council, we have a Regional Resiliency Action Plan that touches on a lot of different types of strategies and recommendations at a regional scale and at local scales that each community throughout the region, our 6-county region, can look at and consider as they're moving forward in their planning processes. That's available on our website. The crosswalk also looks at the estuary programs plan, the habitat master plan that they've done. We recently done an economic evaluation of the bay. We also are working on different grants related to flooding and compound flooding. And we're also doing a few vulnerability assessments in Citrus and Hernando County. And I think if Amy wants to speak to some of the outcomes that we're seeing so far, we're at the start of those processes, but I think it's important to share what's happening just north of us.
Yeah, so we're doing, as Sarah said, vulnerability assessments for Citrus and Hernando County. One of the biggest takeaways that we have at this time is an issue with public engagement. We're finding burnout. People don't want to engage anymore. So kind of coming up with that program for public information is also going to be useful when you come up with your projects, right? Because we're going to want to present these things to the community and we're going to want them to understand and be involved in that process. So that's one of the biggest issues that we've had so far. A couple of other things that we're doing in addition to conducting vulnerability assessments is we're offering vulnerability technical assistance through the Resilient Grant Program, whereby we are either we held a VA technical forum where we just discussed all things vulnerability assessments and flooding. We are also doing a high tide flood study that covers the entire region. We recently completed the TBRIC project. These are all things that we have on our website. These are all data sets that when you're conducting your analyses or you're building your projects, you can come to these data sets and just take this data. So there's going to be no need to recreate anything new. So we do have data that can fill those gaps for you. I agree with Mr. Fossa, they don't have title pages here. We do have to use the one in Cedar Key and one down by Clearwater. So I support that project idea. But we do the best that we can. So the high tide flooding is going to look at storm surge, king tide, rainy days, all different scenarios for flooding. We're also working on a regional critical asset list with the state, and that's taking all of the critical assets that are included in your vulnerability assessments and combining it into one regional list, one statewide list, and we're just working on our region. But this is going to be another set of data that you can reach to when you're building your projects. Is your project that you're working on for your critical asset, whether it's a stormwater facility or power lines or anything like that, does it also offer a regional benefit? A lot of times you can find more funding if you look at it from a regional aspect. And there's an example in the room today when we get to the project section that I'll kind of want to talk about a little bit too. But that's some of the stuff that we're doing.
Thanks, Amy. Much appreciated. Let me echo some of Amy's remarks. Certainly, federal agencies, you bring resources to the table, but we have limited resources. So what does that mean if we unpack that a little bit? We always like to see projects that have regional impacts, right? And we like to see projects that are collaborative in nature. And we like to see projects coming together across multiple jurisdictions. So to the extent that you can visualize and put forward regionally impactful projects, that's really important. Harry, you want to say a few words? One of the things that EDA does across the country, we fund economic development planners in about 400 regional planning commissions across the country. And we fund 10 positions across the state of Florida. So each regional planning council has an embedded economic development planner. Why is that important? Well, because they do regional economic development planning, they produce a plan, but they also do economic analysis modeling, which can help you understand some of the aspects. If you build out certain build out land use patterns or development patterns, then those things can be modeled. So Harry, you want to say a few words about that?
Sure, thank you, Greg, for that introduction. So again, I'm Harry Walsh, I'm Senior Economic Development Planner with the Tampa Bay Regional Planning Council. So I guess starting with the regional planning side of it, a few things you mentioned. So one thing that we do as the Regional Planning Council is we maintain the Tampa Bay Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy, or CEDS. In this document, one, it keeps the region eligible to apply for certain federal funding opportunities, some of EDA's funding opportunities, as well as provides a list of goals and actions to achieve those goals. And then something it can include is a list of projects. So if we put a project in there, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be funded. I know, Greg would call me out immediately if I were to say that. But I think we're talking about intentionality and collaborating is if we start putting projects, if you have some ideas already right now, that's something we could include in the sets when we have some of our discussions. I'll make sure you're all aware of when those are happening. And that at least demonstrates our intention. We're going into this project regardless of the funding source. We simply want to do. And then for visual analyses, we've done several different things of varying sizes. I know I'm looking at Tom Ryan. I've done several impact studies for like return on investment for the EDC's work. We also did an industrial land use strategy for Pasco County a few years ago, where we looked at all the land uses currently and where it might be useful to develop, and then also made some suggestions about some strategies to maybe get there. So there's a lot of things that we try to do for the region. We try to work with all of our member governments. Pasco County is a member government. And so if there's anything that we can do going forward to help you, to assist, we have a whole technical assistance program. So we do some reports on our own, but we like to work and support existing projects. So thanks for the opportunity to speak, and glad to provide any other information.
Thanks, Harry. Appreciate that.
So David Engel is not here today. He is actually in a meeting with Moffitt, so he gets a pass because Moffitt is our economic game changer. So good for that. But just to answer your question a little bit, Greg, just about the big picture is Pasco County has been a little bit behind the curve from the beginning because we have been for history a bedroom community for our folks to the south. And so economic growth came in the form of residential, which unfortunately right now, we don't even break even on the provision of services for that. So until we balance the tax base and bring in more industry, bring in more jobs creating kind of ventures, that isn't going to change. And so for our ability to protect what we currently have, that's why legislation like the local is so damaging to us, because it threatens our commercial properties that we set aside specifically for job generation. So the big picture is that that's what we have to deal with here. And so not only do we have to continue to grow that, but we got to protect what we currently have.
Thank you, Dr. Wells. Tom, you're here with the Pasco County EDC. You want to say a few words?
Sure. Mine works. Tom Ryan, Pasco EDC. I want to expand a little bit about what Mark was saying, but from the private sector side, what we hear primarily from industry, and our goal is to bring in a diversified base of industry. So not just one industry, we have 6 target industries that we focus on, and we're in collaboration with the county and agreement with the Board of County Commissioners to bring those companies to the county. But what they ask, and this is something that is more macro in nature, because I don't think we saw it with this particular workshop, but they ask about continuity of services during storms. That is their number one question. And it primarily is in utilities. In Florida, they started electric,
That's the number one. But it also feeds down into assurances, because a lot of times the companies aren't based here. They have to answer to somebody else, somewhere else. And that somewhere else may not see a hurricane ever. Might see a big snowstorm, but they have to answer to usually board of directors and committees that we're here today. They have similar committees. They have to say, how do you have continuity of service? What is the direct line to the county? What is the direct line to the utilities? What is direct line for, say, water, especially if they use water in their manufacturing process, which is part of a major manufacturer of food. So water quality is always going to be a big deal for them. So those are the issues that they ask. The second, that relates to something the county can address, meaning from a governmental standpoint, that they can assure that the services will be there. And then the private sector side is the utilities, electric and gas. The one thing that also is brought up quite a bit on surveys is, okay, there's a storm, how are my workers going to get back to work? Especially if they live in the west part of Pasco, that's going to be the first inundated area. In our conversations with Joy and Milton last week, we talked about designing strategies around, and I'm going to use the wrong terminology, and I shouldn't, because I said on the Citizen Advisory Committee for NPO, but like on a micro transit system that's implemented during storms to get people from, because you remember, these folks are mostly hourly workers. Well, if their car's inundated with salt water, they're not going to work. So they lose their job. The companies are away from the salt water. So they're in central Pasco. So the question is, if we move to Pasco, how are my employees going to get to work for that 30 days, 60 days that maybe they're finding new cars, pumping water out of their house? So how could there be somehow a way to classify certain areas of the county that could develop into short-term transit options? So there could be like, go Pasco, go say, we'll come to you and get you to your job, something like that. So those are the questions we hear from the industry.
Thanks, much appreciated.
I have two things. Speaking on what Tom just brought up, if anybody from Withlacoochee is online, or is there anybody in the room? Right. If you want to speak, your
yeah, no problem. Hello, my name is Stephen Collins. I'm here with Withlacoochee River Electric. We have two of our other engineers here with us. We have recently been working with Pasco County. Additionally, we've been working with Hernando County to come up with a joint project. Currently, we have a grant application for BRIC that is to build a new substation inland and decommission two of our existing substations, C Pines and Baynet Point. But with that, would involve upgrading the transmission along US 19. Our ultimate goal would be to upgrade the transmission all the way from our one of our substations, the Hudson substation, up to the Uwachi substation that currently supports 6 of our substation sites, 4 of which are dual stations. So we have support more members overall. It supports 40,000 members residential and 6,500 commercial members. So I think our goal ultimately would be to continue working on these multi-region projects and work with the 2 counties to get those supported. Additionally, we have begun looking into hardening our 3-phase distribution lines that we are doing individual projects for, and with the H8 Hazard Mitigation Grant Program, HMGP, for Hurricane Idalia, but we're open to others. Programs that we have, that way we can improve the electrical backbone that supports the, like I said, residential and commercial residents in the area. So,
as well as Baynet Point Hospital.
Yeah, as well as Baynet Point Hospital. Additionally, we will be serving Moffett, so Moffett that we were just talking about, we'll be supporting that. So we do obviously support a large area, and so we're open to communication. Like I said, we work with Nolan. We have the application through Pasco County because it has to be for the break application, and that's moved on to the national competition. So they're in the process of reviewing that. So happy to answer any questions that anybody has.
No, thank you. I want to turn to a few folks online. Karen Meyer, did you want to come off mic and say a few words about discretionary grant programs?
Good morning. Yes, good morning. Yes, I figured this might be the best opportunity to remind the group about the discretionary grant process. Now, it's not a guarantee, but it has kind of come back up the last few years. We anticipate or expect that it, will probably be likely to recur this year. And I know a number of you sitting in the room are recipients of some of the past projects that were selected. Just to give you a quick reminder of that process for those of you that are working on projects currently or have not ever applied, please make sure that you submit an application. We do get over probably 100 applications. And usually there's either 10 or 15 projects that the congressman can select, but they are discretionary, which means that it's federal funding that is coming to our local community with the congressman having the opportunity to select those projects in our district to select. So it's not a federal agency, it's not the federal government deciding how that money is spent, it's the congressman. He's really looking at infrastructure and government entities to award that money to, because we know there's a great need all across our district. So what I would just say is be prepared with your project, because those announcements, when they're made, it's such a short time period for you to notify us and submit that application. I'm talking like probably 2 weeks. But our deputy chief, and just by the way, for those of you who don't know me, I'm a director of strategic operations for the congressman, and I oversee our grant process and working with you to explore those opportunities and provide support. Summer Blevins, our deputy chief, is the one that really oversees the process with the congressman. I'm on that team as well. So I like to be aware of all the projects going on in our district, which is why I am really glad to hear of a lot of these projects that are already have been spoken about this morning. But I don't want to take up too much time. I just wanted to throw out that reminder about the process. Can you hear me okay? You don't have to give us a lot of detail about your project. It's usually a brief summary, but you really have to be in a position to go forward with that project so that when the funds come in, you fall in time with that process. So I just wanted to throw out that reminder. And then I know Anthony Thomas has my information. A lot of you in the room have my information, but I'll provide it here again. So if you have questions or want to follow up with me so that you could talk to me about some of your specific projects, I'd be more than glad to do that at some point. Thank you.
Karen, and thank you for that. I just, it's Greg Bay with EDA. I'm just asking the question. The discretionary grant programs, they cannot be used as local match, correct? For other federal grant programs like ours or
sometimes they can. Sometimes they can.
Okay.
So right now we don't know if, first and foremost, if they will be a part of the process of this coming budget. But if they are, there's certain agencies that will be part of that plan and other agencies that will not. So for example, if HUD is not part of the process, it doesn't make sense to submit a proposal for something that falls under HUD.
Right.
So sometimes you can use those for matching. So if you have already received other grant funding, you can still use this towards that project. And again, usually I will say timing wise, we get short notice, but typically it would be kind of around the March, April timeframe that notice would go out. So if you are not already on that email list, please make sure that we have your email so that we get that notice to you.
Appreciate that clarification, because generally speaking, we can't match federal to federal, but there are some limited opportunities where there may be some possibilities there. So thank you, Ms. Meyer, for sharing that. I wanted to turn to Rick Butler at Army Corps of Engineers. Rick, I think you had some comments you wanted to share with the group. If you're online. There
Sure.
you go.
Can you guys? Yeah. Thank you very much. Can you guys hear me and see me? Okay. Sorry about the last time. Apologize. All right. Well, good to be here. Yeah, I just wanted to just reiterate that again, we're here. We have technical assistance that we can provide, both planning assistance to states, which is cost shared with our partners, and then of course FPMS, which can be 100% federal. Both of those are not, that type of technical assistance does not lead to, it can be used to, obviously attain grants from other entities. And then, of course, we have our continuing authorities program, which can lead to construction. That usually starts with a feasibility phase and then a construction phase. So I say this just to, just reiterate that we're here to help. We're here to have, provide services. And to facilitate solving the problems that you guys have, albeit flooding, water resources, what have you. So I know my brochure has been passed around. I feel free to talk to you guys about it. I can share it with you. It's a little difficult to show on this screen because it's a double 11 by 17. But again, if anyone has any questions, please feel free to email me and I could set up a follow-up meeting and we can address how we can solve any problems that you guys have.
Much appreciated. Dave,
Thank you.
nice to see you again virtually. Thank you for coming online. I know I haven't seen you in a couple of years, but the question I posed to earlier was, what is the direction of what is the vision for Pasco County economically speaking, and what are some of the actions, initiatives you folks are putting in place to realize that vision of economic development? So if you could share some insights with us, I think that'd be very helpful. Thanks.
All right. Well, thank you. And it's great seeing you, Greg. We've had some successful engagements and interesting projects in our past life. So Pasco County has a variety of initiatives and things we're working on that are unique, innovative, and important to the county. So I'm going to start on the west side and kind of move east because we have market areas in the county which have different characteristics and different needs. On the west side along US 19, which is our major commercial corridor, you're aware of that road, where our planning team is focused on providing a redevelopment overlay and form-based zone effort on US 19. Our goal is to stimulate and generate mixed-use development along that corridor because auto-centric retail doesn't work anymore. And there's a lot of low and moderate income people that live in that area. So we've got a declining static tax base. Our sales tax capture is shrinking. Blight is increasing and incrementalizing in that area, and a rise of homelessness. So the best thing to do is provide opportunities, and the opportunities aren't only on the land use side and the design side, it's also on job skill development to get the population there, which is most of our available labor force right now that could fill future jobs, upskilled and trained. So we have our Pasco reentry program, which takes undertrained or people out of the workforce, even in homeless and formerly incarcerated people, and get them skills into the jobs. And might I add, that program has taken about 160 homeless people in the last 3 years, gotten them trained and into jobs and off the street. And so it's an empowerment. Then we have AM skills that you know about that provide advanced manufacturing. We are also broaching with establishing a redevelopment authority on the west side. The reason is that the Board of County Commissioners has incrementally produced incentives, whether it be mobility fee reductions and other measures, but there's been no traction because the cost of the land is really the biggest problem with redevelopment. So we're formulating now a redevelopment authority concept, and the Board of County Commissioners approved a countywide economic development study that Ernst & Young is going to do. And we're embarking on a new penny for Pasco for the next 15 years, starting in Jan 1, 2025. And we want to have we want somebody to peel back the onion and give us a clear, objective assessment of what we're doing and and how well we're doing it versus the best practices in the United States and changing trends in the economy and redevelopment. So that study will be available in October. So moving kind of, in an easterly direction, looking at focuses of unmet need, because I know the EDA focuses on low and moderate areas. So up in the northeast section, we talked about the Lakuchi area and Trilby, which are historic crossroads of commerce when agriculture was our leading industry here in the county. There's a tremendous amount of poverty up there. In fact, the Lakuchi census tract has actually been losing income over the decennial censuses, which is very unusual. And it's actually more impoverished than western Palm Beach County around the lake, where there's pockets of poverty there. So we're working on. I just got off a call, which made me late. Southeast Culvert, we're moving them in from Atlanta, Georgia, and they're going to be building a light manufacturing facility. It's going to be three construction plants, and we're focused off the CSX railroad. And the state gave us. Well, no, the state did not give us. We gave the landowner $785,000 to build a spur, and I'm starting to investigate inland ports. Read recently that the state of Florida is considering inland ports, and we are blessed because we have the two CSX freight lines going through the county with connections to the Tampa port and all the way up to Ocala. And we have vacant land that has utility service and zoning. So I'd like to put together an inland port grant application. I don't know if the EDA could be assisting there, or we just go through the state. But the State Department of Agriculture is formulating a grant program now as we speak. So on the economic development front, man, since I met with you, we had a pipeline of 43 million square feet of employment generating activity, about 78,000 jobs. In just 1 year, we're up to 101,000 jobs, and we're 78 million square feet of entitled development. So we're working that through the system. Our biggest problem, since we have no concurrency here in Florida, is to plan and incentivize comprehensively infrastructure improvements to create development-ready status. And because we didn't have money available, and it was always the recipient was the private sector, so I could knock on the EDA door. We've actually given tax rebates to developers to build on and off-site vision roads and utility mains in our employment centers, and to also provide relief valves to future traffic congestion using internal vision roads. And we're working on another one. I'll be in front of May on a 3.5 million square foot project where we're building 2 vision roads to bypass 52 and 75 with peak hour traffic going in and out of the Target facility, which is 2 million square feet, 2,500 employees. It's completed. The shell's completed. They're doing a interior fit up, and also the 3.5 million square foot business park on the westerly side of I-75. So all in all, the county's bustling. We're using the tools available to us that we can, and we really could use EDA help in exploring some of the initiatives on the west side, because matching people up to jobs is what the EDA does best, and we really could use your help there. I don't have a defined scope of a proposal, but I will be working on one and have probably some interface with you by the first half of the year.
Thank you, David. Looks like you guys are rocking and rolling. I really appreciate the overview there. One of the programs that Congress is we're looking to finalize our FY24 budget, but one of the programs that may come back is the Good Jobs Challenge, and that's a good program to look at for the Lakuchi area, because one of the things that program looks at is lack of prime age employment in very, very distressed communities, and it tries to resolve that prime age gap, employment gap, through various interventions that are locally driven. And that could be transportation disadvantage issues and a whole host of other issues which we just sort of broached on today. So take a look at that. I'll, obviously there will be an announcement at headquarters if that program is, if there's a good job challenge that's coming forward. You're going to want to take a look at that. We had a huge amount of competition for that program when it was announced last year. And a lot of folks were very much interested in how to move the needle to help some of these chronically underemployed and unemployed individuals, get them back into the workforce.
Well, I'm glad you told me that. So, we basically could create a shovel-ready condition and situation in anticipation of the release of the new funds for the program. I'm aware of that program. And so there's some land on the 301 corridor, which kind of interfaces with Trilby-Lacucci. We're working on industrial zoning there. We've got about 200 acres under assemblage now with the rail spur. We've met with Aubrey Brown at CSX, and the county owns land contiguous to it. So maybe that would be a good area to maybe kind of create this the good jobs challenge, and also create an inland port there.
Right, inland port and inland port. It's a great idea. It had a lot of impetus. Oh gosh, almost 2 decades ago now, and now it's coming back to gain some currency because many of the ports are basically running out of space for their products, and they need additional facilities for transshipment. So that's I know a lot of inland communities in Central Florida have are contemplating inland ports. So it's an interesting.
So here's a report card on an EDA grant that you assisted us in obtaining back in 2018. So that industrial park, which was the decommissioned spray field, that work has been complete. There's actually one building up, 187,000 square feet, and we've got 3 other buildings going up. And the Board of County Commissioners and the staff successfully promulgated the opening of a new interchange at Overpass Road on I-75, servicing that area. So the jobs are forthcoming, and thank you for supporting the program.
And what Dave was talking about is one of the things that we can support is looking at highest and best use opportunities. And so in this case, was it 100 acres spray field? Was it something like that?
It was, yes.
Yeah, about 100 acre spray field that the county owned, and the project EDA was, what's the opportunity to turn this into an industrial development site? So it was a relatively small project in terms of dollars, but you could see that the information that was gained from that study is actionable information, as David said. And once you have that actionable information, Tom, you made the point there too, you guys go to site developers or site selectors, they need information, they need good information, they need actionable information. So that's one example of having that actionable information. So thanks for sharing.
I just wanted to make sure you knew that it didn't sit on a dusty bookshelf to study.
I didn't think so, David. Thank you so much.
Yeah, Greg, I just want to add at this moment, let's not forget about the capital stacking possibility, not opportunities. We have other federal partners here.
Yeah.
I definitely want to make sure they're not left out of these discussions.
Yes, absolutely. So to that point, yes, I mean, many of these projects, and especially the larger projects, are going to require a capital stack. So what Milton is referring to is a very issue which, let me give you an example. Building a wastewater treatment plant is a very expensive proposition. Used to be a lot less back in the day. It's a lot more now. And so one of the things that we get a community that's looking to enhance wastewater treatment plant or build a new one is we start to look at how we can look at that capital stack. And the way that we can look at it, EDA and other federal agencies can look at it, is we can't be in the same project because we can't match federal with federal, but we can take a discrete part of the project. So if you can divide a wastewater treatment plant into, let's say, 5 discrete standalone pieces that come together form the totality, then that's something we can work with, and we're very skilled at doing that. So for our standpoint, we would say, you know, carve a piece out that EDA can look at, and maybe it's doing the spray field, or maybe it's building the administrative center for the wastewater treatment plant, and that way it gets to, you start to chip away at that larger cost. But exactly that, I mean, that part of what the economic recovery support function today, and part of this discussion is, certainly a lot of our federal and state agencies can take a project and run with it. There's no question about that. But when we start getting into the question of regional stormwater systems, which are going to be in the tens of millions of dollars and potentially even larger, then you're going to start to want to get the full federal and state and local involvement. And that could be, you know, Army Corps, you know, it could be, you know, EM, it could be a whole host of players. And part of what we try to do is, part of what the conversation today is about, is starting to put people, putting the faces to the questions, right? So that you come away from this discussion at least having some understanding of who to dial in next to have that discussion. So, yeah, thanks for sharing that, Milton. I know I like to talk EDA centric because I'm the EDA rep for, but nevertheless, I do appreciate the fact that, you know, we have done lots and lots of large scale projects, and those large scale projects, in many instances, can have participation with private funding, state funding, EDA funding, and other potential federal agencies. So the moral there is always ask for what you need and to be as comprehensive as possible, because to Dr. Bella's point earlier, and to David's point, you've got to think big, right? You've got to think big, and you've got to think about, if you have an opportunity now, think comprehensively, because you want to try to achieve the requisite goals that you've set out to do. So don't shortchange yourself in terms of looking at projects which can really bring the economy forward, which can really move the needle. Like I think the gentleman was saying, you know, you're going to take a look at the infrastructure systems across the county, and that's a good way of sort of getting the big picture. Now, I was told that Hernando County is online. Is anyone from Hernando County would like to speak?
Hi there. Sorry for not having my camera on. It's not working right now. But my name is Michelle Miller. I'm the grant writer for Hernando County. I'm glad that the Withlacoochee River Electric Cooperative folks are there in person. The reason why we are attending this today is primarily to talk about a potential regional project with Pasco and Hernando, trying to assist in the strengthening and hardening of the Withlacoochee River Electric Cooperative transmission lines. It had initially come to us as an HMDP project, and we were reviewing it initially and realized that the size and scale of the project, as well as the impact, were actually outside of just the Hernando County boundaries. So we started discussing with TBRPC, primarily with Amy Bidwell, who she mentioned earlier, has been helping us with our vulnerability assessment and some of our local mitigation strategy updates. And she actually recommended that we attend this meeting today so we can talk through some potential opportunities so we can really look at the regional impact of these Withlacoochee River transmission line improvements. So I appreciate the opportunity. And Greg, I know we're talking about some other disaster related projects as well, but just excited about the opportunity to discuss this with you all and see if there's anything that we can explore in conjunction with Pasco EOC and REC to address those issues.
Well, thank you for coming online. I'm excited about our future conversations, and I'm also excited about the fact that you folks are looking at the transmission lines on a regional basis. I mean, that's a kind of example of a great collaborative effort. So thank you for citing that. Much appreciated. Okay, so we have, Tarpon Springs is in the room.
I'm just a grant girl. I don't know anything at all that they're doing. Yeah, thank you. I was afraid you were gonna call on me.
It's not like Shark Tank.
That's okay. Thank you. There you go. I'm PJ. I'm with Tarpon Springs. I am the grant manager for the city. What we are experiencing is we have one project in particular that we have applied through HMGP, and of course, we're in Pinellas County, so our LMS working group, we're getting ranked pretty low on our projects in Pinellas County because of course we have St. Pete and Clearwater that's competing against also Pinellas County. So our project that we're trying to get is that we're finding out that we're too small to get big things funded and too big to get rural projects funded. We're falling in that non-sweet spot. And I'm trying to figure out who can we go to try to get this funded.
And what are you trying to find this on?
It's our sponge docks project. The sponge docks are flooding every time there's any kind of high tide or anything. And that's the focal point of our tourism industry.
Okay.
Tarpon doesn't have a ton of, things to bring people in. So it's flooding all the time. The businesses are shutting down. We have to shut all those thoroughfares down, all 19 and everything. We're trying to put in a new stormwater system, but again, every time we apply for something, we're getting ranked so low behind the Pinellas counties, the Clearwaters, the St. Pete.
And who are you applying to?
We've done the HMGP, which we're putting in for this HMGP again. We've done the FMA, the BRIC. We did Resilient Florida. We were hopeful since the governor had even signed that grant at the sponge dock several years ago, and it even got denied. So, right. And I mean, we were the highest ranked one in Pinellas County, but the Miami-Dades, the Tallahassees, and the Orlandos and Tampas, they're all getting ranked so much higher than us.
Well, let me, okay, so I appreciate that. Kevin Miller, are you on the line from DOI? Kevin? Is he still on?
I am on the line.
Can you speak a little louder? Can you speak up a little louder, Kevin?
I gotta change my audio. Get rid of the. Can you hear me now?
We can. Yeah, it's better now. Can you share some thoughts about that question?
I'm sorry, I did not hear the question. I'm having trouble hearing everybody. I put information in the chat about my contact, and what I recommend is that people contact me directly. I can't hear very well, and I'm afraid you may not be able to.
The question was about. Yeah, Kevin, the question was about, was it about repairing a sponge dock or creating a new one? Was it repairing a sponge dock?
She was trying the flooding after the storm for the sponge docks, and that's their main source of tourism.
But is it a stormwater project? It's a stormwater project? Okay. I'm just wondering, Kevin, it's a stormwater project. I'm not sure that that's something that DOI could help with respect to their sponge dock, which is a tourism-related impact.
We might be able to help with it. What we would do, this is something that crosses between RSFs, and so it would be coordinated between the infrastructure RSF and the EDA and us. Depending on the circumstances, we might be able to help. I'd suggest whoever's asking contact offline.
Yeah, you put your contact information in the chat there? Okay.
Yes, I did.
Thank you, Kevin. Yeah. Andrew. And you can certainly reach out to me too. We understand that. And I appreciate your candor. We understand that in some communities, tourism, that's what you're all about, right? So what I said earlier is obviously, we like communities to diversify their economy, but they have limited opportunity to do so. And if that's the mainstay of the economy, we can certainly have a discussion about that. So please do jump in. And I didn't get your name.
My name is PJ.
PJ, thank you.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Appreciate that. So between some of the folks here at the RSF, we'll certainly come back to you. But I would encourage you to put that idea down in the project summary sheet, just so we get a sense of the scale of the project in terms of the dollar amounts. Sorry. Okay. Yeah, and when do we expect the lunch? 12:45. 12:30. Okay. All right. Okay, so we're coming up to 11 o'clock. Joy is going to pass out the project sheets. Just use this as basically as a way to impart to us just some general information about some of the key projects you folks are looking to potentially accomplish and implement. We're going to take these back, and then we will, as I said, this is the start of the conversation, but we will be reporting back to you all, and we'll be providing some standard notes and discussion points and points of contact for follow-up. So again, this is a good exercise today. Take the time to put down the project information there. Now, we're going up to the 11 o'clock hour. And at this point, what I'm going to suggest before we get started is let's take a 5-minute break, bathroom break, coffee break. I know people need to use the facilities, and then we're going to reconvene at about maybe 5 hours. All right, thank you very much.
Supposedly, they close these off.
Okay, let's everyone take their seats.
Ever since then.
Guys, we're going to get started again. Okay, can everyone take their seats?
But at least we're making some
Guys,
progress.
is that
Was like, no.
Thank you. Thanks, Anthony. That's it.
Everybody online, we're going to get started again.
Okay, thank you all. Appreciate that. Thanks, Anthony. So what we're going to do, can everyone hear me now online and in the room? So what we're going to do in the last remaining section of this workshop today is we're going to give you folks time to fill out the project sheets with ideas to move the economy forward from a resiliency standpoint. That's the focus of the discussion today. We're also going to hear from some folks that you haven't heard from as well. And so let me just ask, any federal folks online that we haven't heard from thus far, if you'd like to unmute and say a few words, introduce yourselves. Don't be shy. Your opportunity.
Hey, Greg, I have
Yes,
more
sir.
stuff. I have more stuff that I didn't really cover, and I if you don't mind, I'd just like to mention some things.
No, and in
So-
fact, I was going to ask you about AmSkills. Did they ever build their additional facility that we?
Well, we did. AmSkills renovated their facility, and actually, they've been instrumental in business attraction here to Florida from out of state. They're doing advanced manufacturing and robotic skills training for a number of facilities that have decided to come here into Pasco, updating and upgrading their labor force. But I wanted to include just a brief discussion on basically our marquee project, which is the Moffitt Cancer and Research Center known as Spiros. So just to give you just an overview, it's 775 acres. It's part of this huge MPUD called Angeline, which will have 9,500 housing units wrapped around the employment opportunity. There will be a 3 to 4 million square foot downtown for Angeline, contiguous to Moffett. Moffett is going to be building out a business park for 16.7 million square feet. They are in active vertical construction now. They're constructing a proton radiation treatment facility, which provides precision radiation treatment to avoid the invasiveness of traditional radiation therapy. And they're also constructing an ambulatory care facility. And the reason I was late today, I was working with them on a 600,000 square foot dry and wet lab research facility, which will be 4 to 5 buildings, 7 to 8 stories tall. And so we've been very successful getting money into that project from outside sources. The state legislature gave the project's cash flow from the cigarette tax in the state. We did a conduit bond deal through the county for over $400 million for the vertical support. We obtained $106 million in FDOT funding for infrastructure. And so there's one thing that I think that you and I could work on, and that's the connectivity of Moffett, because Moffett is a NCI accredited cancer facility, the only one in the state of Florida. And because of the unique immune therapy that Moffett is starting to develop and actually produce for care, we have a lot of people coming in and out of this facility. And the connectivity to the international airport could be something we could work on. I mean, we've even been talking about air taxis. So I think there's a nexus for the EDA on that, and I'd like to explore maybe those type of ideas with you.
Absolutely. No, I mean, I think we're increasingly aware that just in our last set of outings to the Big Bend area, there's a lack of healthcare facilities, of course, in rural areas. And so we're very much attuned to the fact that people have to drive long distances to get adequate healthcare, and the fact that you've got a very unique facility. Yeah, I'm happy to have that offline conversation with you, David. So thank you.
And also access to preventative cancer care. They're very engaged now in immune therapy, where they'll actually have vaccines to prevent most types of cancer in the next 10 years. So things things that are good for the special need community, they can get access to avoid disease, not to deal with disease. The last thing, and I forgot to add, is we received an EPA grant for a community-wide or county-wide environmental assessment for identifying brownfield sites. And we're focused in our low and moderate income areas to try to open up vacant land or redevelopment opportunities to commercial development and job creation.
No, that's great. Sarah, do you guys have a brownfield program on Tampa Bay? You don't? Okay. All right.
We have one in the county.
Do you have one in the county? Okay. All right. It's a very good program. I used to run a brownfield program for many years. It's a very good program, so I would definitely take advantage of the EPA resources there. It's a great program, and it's a great program to help accelerate the cleanup and revitalization of brownfield sites, and use EPA funds to do visioning as well. So take my hat off to you if I have one. Thanks, David. I appreciate that. I'm going to turn now to, as David so eloquently was talking about business development, I want to turn to the Small Business Administration. Julie, you want to share with the folks here about what SBA does and how SBA can help in terms of the long-term recovery and resiliency?
Yes, thank you, Greg. Hi, everybody. My name is Julie Garrett. I work with the U.S. Small Business Administration with our Office of Disaster Recovery and Resilience. So we're here working as part of the economic recovery support. And first, I will give you the big picture of SBA in a second, but let's just talk about Adalia. there is still the opportunity for people in your community, for small business owners and nonprofit organizations to apply for an economic injury disaster loan. That deadline is not until May 31st. So if anybody thought they were going to catch up from earlier closures and they're still having financial issues and they might need working capital, there is still time to apply for it. Oh, louder? Okay, sorry. Okay, so there is still time to apply for that loan. The application deadline is not until May 31st. So that's important. And then the second thing is, anyone in your community that got a physical disaster loan for Idalia has up to 2 years to apply for mitigation funds. So if they want to do projects at their home or business that would protect it against high winds or flooding in the future, anything that's going to help with a similar disaster, they have up to 2 years to apply for additional funding. And the amount of funds they can apply for is based on the verified losses they experienced from Idalia. So up to 20% of those. So let's say somebody had $40,000 worth of losses, they could apply for $8,000 in mitigation funding. And these are at very low interest rates. By the way, the idle interest rate is 4% for businesses. So another thing that we can help with is business continuity planning and planning for disaster preparedness. We work very closely with our technical partners, the SPDC and SCORE. And not only can we help with disaster planning, they can just help make businesses more resilient and stronger and help grow their businesses. There are, they can do forecasting, modeling, marketing assistance, technical stuff like business training. They can give free business counseling. Sometimes after disaster, it just really shakes up the business and they need somebody from the outside to help them look at their financials and kind of chart a new path forward. So I encourage you to let people in your community know this is an option. So another thing that we're doing as part of this project is we're doing trainings. We would love to work with your chambers and your community leaders and do a training and teach them about the federal disaster loan program while it's blue skies, so that when something happens, they can explain the program to their members or to their community members. So train a trainer. With our subject matter experts, we can do procurement workshops, financial literacy, SBA disaster recovery and readiness and preparedness workshops, a variety of different things like that. And the SBA offers a lot of loans outside of disaster loans, such as the 7A, the 504, micro loans, and a variety of procurement certifications. So I brought a lot of information. It's on that table up there, and please feel free to come and talk with me if you'd like any more information. Thank you.
Julie, thanks very much. You said your information is on the table, right?
Yep.
So I'm going to leave some information there as well. I wanted to just see if Jeremy Odell from FDEM is in the room. I know that he had signed in.
Yeah, just step out.
Oh, wait, okay. So I'm gonna pick on you from UNCA perspective, because you guys are doing great work on the community assistance side, and maybe you can share with the folks in the room and folks online some of the things that you folks are trying to support.
Yes, thank you again for allowing me to speak on behalf of CA. Just some quick projects. As far as CA in the field, I'll speak on Idalia, and I'm excuse me, looking at a spreadsheet just on some of the projects that we uncovered while responding to the recovery needs, communication improvements. So a lot of counties, emergency management agencies, law enforcement, fire, has expressed some need in communication, upgrades, enhancements, whatever that may be. Not to go into too many details with it, We're working on some of the counties on those projects, working with our state counterpart, Mr. Jeremy Ortiz, on that. There's some other things that you all may not have or have experienced is with the poultry industry. Looking at some things, trying to bring awareness and research some of the potential funding opportunities for the poultry industry in the Big Bend area, which has had a significant challenge with losing their livelihoods up there in the Big Bend. You're talking about family farming business that's been going on for generations and losing poultry houses up there. So, trying to be creative and think outside of the box. And that's one of the things that CA is real good with, is although we have these funding mechanisms in place through Stafford Act programs and some of the other side programs of FEMA, but we're charged with trying to find a way to say yes. I'm trying to be creative with some of the philanthropy options that may exist for projects. So when we sit down and look at projects, we want your best project, your top priority project for the county. We don't make any guarantees, but what we will do is start that process of reaching out to those other 30, 36 other federal agencies to bring them into the table. If there's healthcare needs or healthcare concerns, as we have seen in the area, not so much here, but just in our response area for branch 3, just having that dialogue and bringing in those resources is valuable. Having a avenue to connect you to a resource that you can call on for a lifetime. That's some of the things that we're capable of doing and bringing to the table. Also, we have Army Corps that's been on the line and some other agencies. Army Corps is not mission assigned to this disaster. They're working in this steady state form and working with the disaster, but not mission assigned as our EDA counterparts is to us right now. But if we see some things as we move along, and we have started to identify some of those waterway issues with debris cleanup, that's a real big one down around Cedar Key. We were there yesterday with the mayor looking at debris in the waterways. And the debris build up down there, wherever it came from, they find docks from everywhere that have washed up from various different counties down there, but haven't found the resource or have the availability of funding to take care of that. So we're working on some things through our partners right now that's real promising to them to clean up. So where they lost hope in some of that cleanup, they regained that hope yesterday because we brought the right people to the table. And I like saying I'm a South Carolina guy, so don't waste their time. I mean, that's what we don't want to waste your time. We want to bring the right people to that table to facilitate those needs. And for me personally, I take it personal because I want to see the good. And I always instruct them to find a way to say yes. We find other ways in this world to say yes. So we're here to support. Let's really support. And that's holistically CA. And then the technical assistance in of CA. Recovery plan assistance. We can deploy some folks to the field to help with facilitate that, whether it's personnel from a FEMA end or contract support. We just need to know. I can go on and on all day long of the possibilities, but we need to know. So the conversations as we're having today, my team here, they're taking notes, and we're going to go back, and there's some things that we captured. We definitely will circle back to make sure that, hey, is this a need that you want us to tackle and do some research on for you? I see my state counterpart just walk back in, not to put you on the spot, they asked for you first. Before me. You know, working with Jeremy there, it's been great. So they have the same, we're here to support them, and it's great because they have the same vision and passion that we do to find a way to say yes. So it starts with the conversation. Allow us to have the conversation, allow our ears to listen, and give us some time to go back and do the research. But I'll turn it over to Jeremy for other remarks.
Thanks, Jeremy, you got the mic.
Hi, good morning, everybody. Yeah, thank you, Sloan. Essentially, and I apologize if I missed that. I had a couple of things pop up there. We're here to listen. We're here to hear any of these gaps or opportunities that you have in your communities that have happened close to Dahlia that we can look at. We can synthesize that data, and we can coordinate both with the staff rack programs that currently exist or anything outside of that, along with what EDA is doing, but working with these other federal agencies hand in hand with EDA, with kind of what's going on with this listening session, comprehensively for that whole community approach that FEMA really looks at, and to try to provide as much support as we can here in this area, as well as all the impacted counties for Hurricane Dahlia. I see a lot of familiar faces here, so if anybody does have any questions, I'm a local asset. I'm here all the time. I'd be glad to sit down and talk a little further if anybody has any questions or anything like that. Thank you.
Jeremy, thank you very much. It's a team effort, guys, for sure. I wanted to turn to, we've been talking about the economy, we've been talking about diversification, we've been talking about the vision. I want to turn to my good friend Mike Aller, who should be online with Florida Makes. Mike, you guys just released your 2023 manufacturing update for the state of Florida. So if you could come offline and tell us some of the interesting ways that Florida Makes can help a community become more economically resilient from a manufacturing standpoint.
Absolutely. Can you hear me?
We can.
Good. Yes, so we have very excited to announce the release of the Florida Manufacturing Study in partnership with the Florida Department of Commerce. And the headline on that study, which was done over the course of the last year with the support of the Florida legislature, is that Florida is a manufacturing state. We have over $75 billion of economic activity annually in manufacturing, and it is a broad and diverse industry with higher than average wages, and it is growing faster. Florida is growing faster in our manufacturing sector than any other state in the country, and it's particularly any other large state in the country. So that's a very, very exciting opportunity for the state of Florida. And especially when we're talking about economic diversification, economic recovery, and resilience, manufacturing and having the ability to make and source resources close to home is a great value. Along those lines, we have, and I will try and put in the chat a link to the report itself from the Florida Department of Commerce, but we also have a number of resources related to building resilience and connectivity between our communities and our manufacturing ecosystem. We have a resource called Connex Florida, which is a resource highlighting manufacturing capabilities across the state. We have over 8,000 manufacturers listed in that resource at the moment. Now there are over 25,000 manufacturers in the state of Florida, so we have a ways to go in terms of getting them all engaged and all involved. But we've been able to highlight quite a number of different resources related to manufacturing, and that's manufacturing in a number of different sectors. So that includes medical devices and biomedical, the types of things that would support Moffitt, as well as aerospace is a major industry here, defense is a major industry here. Even transportation equipment and specialty vehicles, emergency response equipment are all major elements of the industrial base in Florida. So there's a couple of different resources that you can highlight. One is floridamakes.com, which is our general Florida Makes network. We have a network of regional manufacturer associations across the state, including both the Nature Coast Manufacturer Association and the Bay Area Manufacturer Association in the Pasco County region. And then we also have a set of resources at supplychainflorida.com, which include information about and links to the Connex platform that I was talking about before.
Mike, thank you for sharing. And can you share the links for the regional manufacturing associations as well in the chat?
Yes, will do.
Thank you. Appreciate that, Mike. I had
Hey, 1 second, Greg.
Yes.
So that manufacturing study identified that Tampa Bay is the leading manufacturing center for Florida.
Right, I saw that. Yeah, I had a chance to look at it yesterday, so it's very exciting. Mike, thank you for sharing that. That's a really important study, and we hope that you guys can socialize that far and wide, because people need to know that Florida has vast manufacturing opportunities and capabilities, and manufacturing wasn't the manufacturing of your grandfather or your dad's days. It's a much cleaner industry.
Yes.
So appreciate that.
No,
thanks, Mike.
No problem. Thank you. And if anyone has any questions, I'll also put my contact into the chat, and folks are more than welcome to reach out to me personally and would be happy to follow up. So.
Very cool. Thanks, Michael. Before we get into the project development section of the workshop today, I'll ask Joy to tee that up. A couple of folks I want to hear from that we haven't heard from. Lorena Clark is with Florida Commerce. And Lorena, can you tell us about your program, the Dislocated Worker Grant Program, and all the great things that you folks are looking to do?
Good morning. Yes, thank you for having me. The Disaster Dislocated Worker Grant is a program that provides opportunities for unemployed individuals to obtain temporary employment and assist their communities with recovering from a natural disaster, such as Hurricane Idalia. This will involve, we will put the temporary job. I'm sorry, let me try that again. Sorry. Disaster temporary relief jobs will include demolition, cleaning, repair, renovation, and reconstruction of structures and facilities damaged by the natural disaster. So one cool thing that we have been able to do is we have an aquaculture project in Cedar Key regarding the clam farmers. This is a new thing that we've not been able to do before, but it's a project in which we are helping Cedar Key and the clam growers be able to recoup the losses by hiring their temporary workers and paying their wages.
And Dave, I think you had a question about that. Maybe you could share that question. Yeah, Dave, do you want to talk about you put something in the chat about maybe looking at the Dislocated Worker Grant Program for Pasco County workers? Dave?
No.
Oh, sorry. That's right. I think you Dave.
It is, yeah, no, it's just that this program might be applicable to.
Oh, I know, I just wanted him to say a few words. I'm sorry. Okay. Well, so Lorena, for discussions then on the Dislocated Worker Grant Program, they should reach out to you then for further information.
Yes, that is fine. We also work with the local workforce career source development board, so they could reach out to them as well.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate you sharing some insights into that program. It's a unique program. It can do some things that are novel and creative. So definitely reach out to Lorena at Florida Commerce. I appreciate that. We did talk about some of the issues that are affecting economic revitalization and development. One of the issues that was brought up was folks that are transportation disadvantaged. I want to invite Go Pasco to speak about some of the transportation issues with respect to the county and some ideas as to improve the situation economically speaking. So who's here from Go Pasco? Oh, go ahead.
Hello, this is Nina Elkin with the Pasco Director. With the only issue that we face is during a disaster, and we have discussed this is sometimes the communication that we have in dispatching the trips or the vans, right, to pick up the people that need to be evacuated. It's happening so fast that sometimes that communication doesn't is broken as it gets to the driver in this case. We have been in constant communication. You know, we every time that we have last time we actually have a hand wash and have the conversations about how we can improve those communications in order to for those trips to be dispatched in a timely manner. We get there, individuals are not there, they already went somehow, they found a ride. So those are the type of issues that we want to we utilize our own vehicles, the vehicles that we purchase with FTA funds to go regular transit trips. So when a disaster hits, the first thing that we do is we continue providing services, fixed route. We start providing the power transit, and that's when those resources are designated to that in other efforts to evacuate.
So if I could just try to understand, is it communication communication links between the drivers?
Internal communication. Yes, and that is just the business. Everything is happening real time. So by the time an individual called to get picked up, and then it had to be related to us, and then we have to relate it to our call center. Then this one sometimes we don't get all the communication. No, I'm sorry, we do not get all the information needed. For example, if somebody needs a wheelchair, right? And that's what we discussed at our last call.
And I think on a funding standpoint, what I was hoping we would go towards would be from the economic from the storm, the transportation survey that you would like to get funded for where we don't have the full coverage going all the way east. And with the amount of growth we have, that's if you'd like
well,
to
typically, when we get activated, typically it's on the east side of the county, along 19, on the west side. But when we have the discussion before also was previously a couple of weeks ago, it was like some type of funding to obtain software that will allow us for all of us to be able to communicate through one system. So while fire rescue or Go Pasco or the county customer service department enter all that information, we all get the same information and gather the information that is needed.
I appreciate that. I mean, that's a very complicated issue that you're dealing with, and you have to have real-time communication because you've got a fleet that's out there and you want it to be efficient and picking up the passengers that are asking for a ride. So I appreciate that. Thank you for sharing that. Who's that being funded by? Or the Pasco?
You don't have anybody funding your survey right now, correct? Where you're trying to do your transportation defaults at towards the east side of the county. You need that to be funded.
What survey?
Your transportation survey, where you told us a couple weeks ago, where you were saying you were trying to see the future with the growth of the county on where you're. Yeah.
I'm sorry, that's our COA, that's a comprehensive operational analysis. And that's being conducted right now to look at, the growth and where future routes can be accommodated.
Milton's question specifically was, is Go Pasco found internally, locally, or was state assistance?
It's FDA, federal, state, and local.
So FDA and state.
FDA, DOT, and yes. And that study is being funded by FDA. It's currently being.
Thank you for sharing that. I'm gonna, invite you to segue into our, last portion of the workshop today. So I hand the mic over to you.
Great. Hey. 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 Come on, hey. Woo. All right. Yeah. Woo. Oh, I like that. Do that again. Wait. Woo. Okay. Can we all do that? Wait. All right. Well, good, almost good afternoon. Thank you all for your participation today. I know Milton, Greg, and all the folks at the campus, RTC, and here in Pasco County, just really appreciate this opportunity to come together. You've heard about a lot of resources today from different federal and state partners. And just, we're going to go into this next section where we're going to talk about how we're going to spend our time for about the next hour. Before I do that, just a couple housekeeping things. If you have not signed in today, you definitely want to make sure we know that you're here. Those of you who are online, if you can make sure that you put your name and your organization and your email in the chat, that will also make sure that we are aware that you're with us. There's going to be some follow-up. We're going to have a recap of what was discussed today. We're going to have some documents that have been shared, like Rick with Army Corps has shared a real nice brochure that has all the Army Corps programs in a concise way. There's going to be other handouts as well that we're going to share with you. So in order for us to be able to share it with you, though, we have to know that you're here. So the sign-in sheets up here, come up here and sign in at some point during the next hour if you're not already signed in. And again, for folks online, if you can do that as well, make sure that we're aware that you're here. So for the next hour, what we're going to do, we're going to spend about 30 minutes at your tables. Just a minute for the folks online, we're going to talk about how we're going to spend time with you as well. But for those in the room, you're going to spend about 30 minutes at your tables, and we really want you to be creative. One of the things that Milton likes to say is that nobody really asks for a disaster, right? You don't ask for when it happens, but they do happen. And in the context of when a disaster happens, as Milton, Greg, and Sloan with FEMA CA were sharing, FEMA actually puts together a team of federal and state players, many of whom you've heard from today, but there's also several other agencies who couldn't be here, but are connected through the economic RSF and through the FEMA interagency recovery team. So we want you to be creative. Again, nobody ever asked for this, but because the disaster happened, these resources have been activated to reach out to you to see how can they be helpful to you. And so this is the time to think about, are there some issues like we heard about a little bit about recurring flooding issues, right? Are there some issues that you guys are dealing with? Are there some issues to boost your coastal economy, for example? Are there some issues related to converting from sewer to septic? These are some of the issues we've heard about. Heard a little about transportation, et cetera. And whatever else, other issues that you may be aware of.
One other issue which we haven't talked about here is workforce housing, and so don't want to leave that off the table if anybody has ideas about that.
Right. Workforce housing, and we know that that's certainly an issue here, certainly an issue for the region, for Florida and so forth. You heard about different programs. One of the programs that we heard about toward the end was the dislocated worker grant program that we're going to talk about with Florida Commerce. That program is available right now. If you know that there's been folks who've been displaced and need work, that's a program to definitely talk with your local resource board, for example. Maybe there's a project, that could put displaced workers to work for something that still needs to happen in this community as a result of Idalia. That would be a project to think about, for example. You heard Julie talk about some programs that SBA can offer with respect to training. So it doesn't necessarily need to be a funding program. It could be a technical assistance project, for example. Use these sheets to think creatively about what can happen. You heard Rick talk about the Continuing Authorities Program, CAT programs through the Army Corps, and how that can be helpful with some of the infrastructure needs that you have and the floodplain management issues that you have. So be creative. Think at your tables, fill out these forms, and then in about 30 minutes, we're going to ask for you guys to be prepared to share what you discussed at your tables, and we'll kind of just share that with each other. Everything that you share on this will be shared with the RPC, and when it's shared with the RPC, they will also share it with the Garza, and we will make sure that this information gets to the right federal or state partner to follow. Okay? So let me just take a moment to address the folks online. For those of you online, you're going to be part of the fun as well. So don't go away for the next 30 minutes. Sarah is going to go ahead, Sarah with the Tampa Bay RPC, she's going to go ahead and have you go into breakout groups. You're going to be in small breakout groups so that you'll be able to have conversation among yourself. Dana is uploading the project summary sheet that I just shared. She's uploading that to the chat, so you guys will have that. And so go ahead and download that, make sure you have it, and then be prepared in your small group to also think creatively. And when we come back and we do our larger group recap, we'll be calling on you to see if you'd like to share your ideas as well. Once you capture your ideas, make sure that you somehow share them with us. Dana will put some instructions in the chat about how to do that. But we want to make sure that your ideas also get captured today and get shared with the RPC and partners. Okay? Does anybody have any questions before we get started? So again, this is the time to be creative. It's overused, but it's true. Think outside the box. Milton likes to say about this is the time to think about projects that can be transformational from a regional perspective, right? So think about how you can work within your communities, within your region. We heard Dave from the county talk about how Tampa, you guys are part of the Tampa Bay region, right? The Tampa Bay region is leading the state with respect to manufacturing, right? So think about how you guys work together as a region as well. So, all right, without further ado, it is 11:49. We will check in with you. We'll check in with you at about 12:15. If you need a few more minutes, you can have a few more minutes after that. But we'll get back to you about 12:15. All right, have fun. Okay, and again, folks online, you will be going into a small breakout discussion.
Yeah, for sure.
Believer in, someone offers to close all together. We'll start up. All right, for those of you online, we're going to go ahead and read the name. Okay, wait just a second.
Oh. Any other time? Maybe here, right?
Hey everyone, welcome back.
Really seamless for y'all.
Welcome back.
You're doing a good job.
Hope you all had some good discussion. Yeah, I'm seeing at least one or two heads out. So you had some good discussion. Okay. All right. Well, we've reconvened in the room as well, and it looks like we're bringing everyone back online. So, all right. So we're going to spend the next few minutes just kind of reviewing around the room, just what you guys discussed. We certainly saw a lot of folks just kind of, networking and meeting each other and discussing and probably solving some great problems and all that. And all that's actually incredibly important. One of the reasons that Milton likes to pull us together like this is because you never know what's going to happen when you just get us in the room together, right? In terms of the people that you're meeting and the connections that you're making. So that in and of itself is definitely time well worth spent. So anyways, but we do want to hear if you have some project ideas that you want to discuss with us. And want to go ahead and just kind of go around the room. Let's see. going to start with, hold on. Do you have your mic over there? Your, Doug, right? Doug? Okay. Well, you said you were talking about your boss, Andrew, so I'm like, I want to make sure I don't call you Andrew. But, Doug has a project, we're gonna start with Doug, and then we'll go around the room and see what other project ideas might have come. And we're gonna actually ask the folks online as well, so those of you online, again, you're not escaping the fun, just hold tight. Doug, go for it.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, great to be here. What I wanted to introduce was, we want to do a project to build a primary public safety building in the central part of the county. That county would, contain a new EOC, sheriff's admin, fire rescue admin, and traffic operations. So during a hurricane event or a disaster event, we would have everybody housed in one location to be co-located together to be able to, basically recover from that disaster and run operations out of that building. My boss, Andrew Baxter, who couldn't be here today, he responded to the disaster down in Lee County, and they had a really nice, well-built EOC. So that's the vision that we're striving for. We did get a $4 million congressional just for the design of the EOC piece of that, but we need another $6 million. We're kind of estimating this whole facility would cost $100 million total. So we need about $10 million in design. So we need another $6 million. And then of course the construction dollars to build it. So that would be our desire.
Okay, so, and you're looking at Lee County as model, as a model for what you guys do here. All right. Okay, well, again, you have the right folks in the room here about this, Jeremy with EDA, the folks with FEMA. So certainly, to hear about, what you're looking at. Yes, go ahead, Sloan.
Sir, could you state your name, your agency, your title and agency for the team?
Yes, my name is Doug Anderson. I'm with Pasco County Facilities Manager.
Okay, so a multi-purpose public facility. Correct. Okay, for emergencies. Okay, great. And go ahead if you want to just pass that to Milton, not the mic, but your project summary sheet. There you go. Okay, great. Okay, yes, you have an idea, and thank you, Sloan, for that. Let's go ahead and make sure we say our name and our organization, and speak directly into the mic so the folks online can hear you. Okay.
Okay, this project is for actually our building, so Pasco Wilson building. This is for the hardening of the actual building, windows, hurricane-proof windows, and the structural needs. As I mentioned earlier, during an evacuation, we conduct our operations at that site. That building, I think that is about 40 years old in paper thin windows. So since we conduct the operations and the evacuation efforts from that location, is for providing a critical service to our community. So I think that this will be a good part.
Thank you.
George.
Yes.
Could you?
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Okay, can you repeat your name and your affiliation?
Nina Elkin, Pasco Director, Pasco County Public Transportation.
So hardening an existing building, right? Okay. Yeah, okay. All right. Yes, sir, go ahead. Yeah, go for it. And again, name and organization and then the project. Yeah, make sure it's the green sign.
All right, Cisco Pavlis with, I'm a senior program manager here with Pasco County and Utilities. We have two projects that are sizable projects. David alluded a little bit about them. It's to relocate our wastewater treatment plant to a collaborative effort with Newport Richie. It's to get it away from the Gulf Coast and provide resiliency and mitigate against sea level rise. The project costs about estimated $400+ million and it'll be 5 to 8 years to complete. The location of the project would be to be determined because we have to source land, and potential applicants for the project would be the city of Newport Richie and Pasco County. Benefits would be environmental protection, health and safety, and regulatory compliance. All right, the other one is, high span or septic to sewer, which is obviously, as you guys know, environmental impact reduction for coastal affected areas, BMAPs, and other sensitive areas within Pasco County. We have 18,500 septic tanks, so the project is upwards of 200 million ongoing, and it's the whole Pasco County. Possible applicants for the project: Newport Richey, Dade City, Cypress Hills, Pasco County, amongst others within Pasco County area. Increased property values, sewer reliability, flood mitigation, pollution and reduction of environmental sensitive.
Great. So the first one was the wastewater treatment plant and addressing sea level rises and so forth on to that first one. Right?
Yes.
In Fort Ritchie, so relocating the plant.
Yes.
Okay. And this one also is a coordination between the city and the county as well, right? Looking at, looking at, I'm having trouble reading.
Septic to sewer.
What's that?
Septic to sewer.
Oh, septic to sewer. Okay, septic to sewer. Okay, looking at septic to sewer. Okay. All right, well, great. Again, whether online or in the room.
With those septic to sewer being fed.
Does anybody have any? Yeah.
With those septic sewer lines that you're,
The septic sewer lines that you're transferring be fed to the new proposed treatment facilities you want to build?
I'm sure some of them can be picked up for the new facility being moved, yeah.
So it's not necessarily already intended to go to the new facility, but go to an existing facility.
No, there's 6 other facilities that could be taken the extra street.
Yes. And make sure the green was on.
All right, okay, so, we were doing a little brainstorming over here, thinking no idea is a bad idea. Our idea is about staging, creating a staging area that is permanently dedicated for the purpose of disaster recovery. So it would be a large tract of land, it would be a grant, to either have the county convert existing owned land or to buy a site in the West Market area outside of the flood zone area that could be permanently dedicated towards a staging area that would be used by local, state, and federal agencies to come in, provide services. Also could provide temporary housing on the site with FEMA trailers. Also provide temporary structures or permanent structures to bring in water, to bring in food. That would be reserved for emergency situations. And then also, once established, having enough space on site for housing for displaced people. Obviously, may not be enough land to do that for all, but possibly the most needy. Then also creating, as I mentioned earlier, transit options to and from employment centers from this site.
So multi-purpose staging areas specifically for all the various partners who might need to come to help the community be able to locate there, to provide some temporary housing. And then, of course, the important transit option that links folks in need who can come to that site.
Joy, and before you finish that, Tom, how big of a site are you anticipating?
Well, I'm gonna rely on our county ERC folks to handle that, but we were just playing online here, and I think we found, 42 acres, not that that is big enough, but it would have to be a site that can be reserved. Land is precious in Pasco, so it would be a site that we would need basic amenities like electric. The idea is temporary, but it's reserved. Because I remember being called, asked to find temporary emergency operations like the former Target building. So those might still be needed, but these would be staging areas where our federal partners could be, no, we're going here, and we can go there in any disaster. So it'd be forever reserved for that emergency system.
Do you have this written down somewhere?
Well, we were taking notes, so we're.
Yeah, go ahead and put it on.
But you have a chance to make sure it's front fix it. And before you hand it though, let's have you, oh, you already did yours, okay. Okay. Okay, that was from earlier, right? Okay. All right, well, while we're at this table, I see you have something written there as well. Do you wanna, again, say your name and affiliation, organization?
Sure. Justin Grant, Director of Public Infrastructure, Fiscal Business Administration. So this one kind of,
Like a local,
sorry, did everybody hear that?
that's better, okay.
So this one kind of crosses over for two different parts of our branch here in public infrastructure. This one is an evacuation route, lighting resiliency study and implementation. So the idea here is to try and evaluate some of our evacuation routes from the west side to the east side, make sure that there's adequate street lighting, and then also make sure that every critical traffic signal is has generator power throughout that process. So I know we have some generators available through our emergency management department, but not all of the intersections are taken care of. And if the power grid goes down, all the street lights go down as well. So
Trace the trend, yeah. So generators for your traffic lights, evacuation routes, looking at the feasibility of evacuation routes. And so far, and we've now heard about two kind of facility-related projects, whether it's the staging area or the multi-purpose facility, you know, that Doug spoke of earlier, and then some infrastructure related with the septic, the sewer, the relocation of the wastewater treatment plant. Again, all projects are good to bring to the RPC's attention and your federal and state partners, both in the room and online. Anyone else would like to share at this juncture? These are all good. This has been very productive. You guys, I see, yes, gentlemen, sure, go ahead and again, name, organization, and speak directly into the mic so that people online can hear you very well.
I'm Nolan Ristow. I'm a mitigation manager for Pasco County Emergency Management and the LMS coordinator. I covered quite a few earlier on when we were talking projects earlier. Some that didn't get mentioned yet are, the first one is a drainage solution for one of our county parks. This one we've been working with in the working group for a while, and it's not a fit for other federal funding sources because it's a park, it's an open space. But that park does regularly flood and become unusable for weeks at a time. So that's a stormwater project essentially. I have one on here for a shelter of last resort or a stateroom at an east side park, so Burks Park. There's a lack of readily available shelter space on the east side, and Burks Park is a convenient location for a good chunk of our east side residential area to go in. They are behind the curve and need a shelter of last resort. So that's a grant that would be the construction of a new facility to meet that purpose. For Blue Skies, it would be just like a multi-purpose parks facility. Oh, yeah. And then the ones I talked about earlier, I also, I kind of cheated. I put the various projects from our LMS project list. They're all, included in the list. I can provide that if we need to, but things like the generators we mentioned before, the countywide roof and window retrofit I was talking about, and then a host 5 or 6 other potential stormwater projects. So I just think and then, so I'm not talking for.
Say again? Oh, yeah, I see that. No, you came prepared, sir. That's great. And by the way, that's not cheating to include some projects from the LMS, because the LMS, they got to the LMS list because you guys put some thinking into it, right? And so that reflects, so that's just being consistent. So drainage project for your park that is flooding, right? And then some stormwater projects, and then you had the one in between the stormwater.
One new facility.
The new shelter on the east side, right? The new shelter is right. To make sure that folks on the east side have a place to go.
Correct.
Okay, gotcha. Oh, yeah. This one, sir. Okay. Okay. Yes, sir. Again, name and organization, speak directly into the mic, please.
Hi, my name is Jonathan Besley.
Hold the mic up to just a little bit.
My name is Jonathan Besley. I'm
which is electric cooperative. I'm an engineer. Just want to speak about the transmission and storm hardening that we were speaking about earlier. Basically, we are just looking to harden the transmission line along US 19, starting from Hudson Avenue to Cortez Boulevard. The reason why we're looking into it is because the current poles now are concrete poles that are rated to withstand 90 miles per hour wind. That's equal to a category 1. The transmission poles that we're planning to install are rated to withstand 150 miles per hour, which is the equivalent to a category 4. Obviously, the poles have been there for quite some time, but it just takes, one good storm to take it out, and it takes so much time to recover from it. We believe that with the new poles, that the power will stay on, and if there's major damage, it won't be as much as the concrete poles. The project will span between 18 miles of transmission. It'll take roughly 5 years. The total cost is $13.6 million, but we're going to try to mitigate some of that cost because of the disposal of the concrete poles. Hernando County is interested in taking them to make either crushed rock or artificial coral reef. And that's basically it.
And so hardening the poles along US 19, right, so that they're more wind resistant and they can sustain, can you not hear me right now? You cannot?
Yeah,
Okay,
we're good.
Okay, so hardening the pole infrastructure along US 19.
Yes.
Right, which also is in line with how to make sure the traffic lights don't go off and all that kind of stuff. Okay, just scanning the room, any other idea? This is great. I think we've covered more than half a dozen so far, but any other project ideas that you guys want to lift up? Okay, and if you happen to have some and you would rather just share them with the RPC, that's fine too. Ms. Gwen, she's there, so just go ahead and hand them to her. And we'll take those as well. All right, let's turn to folks online. Greg?
Yeah.
Oh, Alan.
Alan.
Go ahead.
Yeah, you guys have seen this one before, but in Pasco County, Alan Middleco in Pasco County. Our planning department has a need for funding for the post-disaster redevelopment plan. And that'll be a major rewrite of an existing very old plan. And they've got a lead on, they're working on an application, but could use match or some type of, co-funding. So they're working on an application with Florida Commerce right now, I believe. And if there's another source like perhaps EDA, that's something that we'd like to talk about.
And we can certainly, if you can write that down. That's one of the things, if Florida Commerce were to fund that project, then we could be in the same project with them as a additional contributor to the effort there. So, definitely put that on the radar screen. And while we're on the topic of post-disaster redevelopment plans, I just wanted to introduce one other idea. And again, I'm not here to suggest you have to do it. I'm just saying other communities have done it. In addition to post-disaster redevelopment plans, EDA in the past has funded just basic economic development strategies. So communities are looking to support, visioning exercise, planning exercise, to look at what kind of target industries they should be looking at. I know Pasco County EDC is here and obviously has a list of target industries and things like that. But there may be some communities within the county that haven't fully engaged in economic development planning. So that's just another idea that I want to put out there as well. Thank
you. Thanks, Greg. Okay. And yeah, Ellen, just make sure that you have a project summary sheet. You probably have one, right, on the post-it.
We're printing the one I sent you.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, yeah, make sure. Okay, any other in the room before we? Okay, let's go online. Does anyone online want to share what you discussed in your small groups? Go ahead and raise your hand, and then Dana, if you can just let us know if anybody's raising their hand.
Absolutely. Someone from the group I was in want to speak. Kimberly or I think Michelle had to step out, or are you still there, Michelle? Or Counselor, would one of you like to speak on behalf of our group?
Kimberly? We see you. Kimberly?
So I can speak on behalf of our group if you'd like. Our group was mainly comprised of folks that were outside of Pasco County. There was a couple of us from St. Petersburg. There was one from Pasco, but I do think she might have gone. And Councilor Barnhorn is from Seminole and is a member of TBRPC. We were mostly involved just wanting to observe and listen and hear some different ideas of things that were happening. Those of you who are familiar with St. Petersburg know that we're kind of a peninsula on a peninsula and have been having a lot of flooding and resiliency work going on in our area. So it was definitely something that we were excited to see continued work going on and wanted to collaborate and learn with partners from Pasco. So was very grateful to the TBRPC and for Pasco for hosting this and for giving us opportunity to collaborate. We were mainly just focusing on discussing some of the grant opportunities that everyone was kicking around, and Councilor Barnhorn was bringing up a really great point. Even though Seminole hadn't had a lot of issues with flooding, he was discussing some of their collaboration on what they would do if that was an issue, and kind of some of the thoughts that you guys had before. I believe someone was mentioning a topic about if they had a storm, what would happen afterwards, and creating shelters and having some grants for things like that. So that was the main focus of our topic. We didn't have a very specific project we were seeking as much as we were just kind of kicking around some thoughts and ideas.
Okay, no, that's all good too. Thank you for sharing, Greg.
Yeah, I just wanted to add something to what you said there, Kimberly. I'm gonna pick on the Tampa Bay Regional Planning Council. They currently have an application into us. It's called Project Phoenix. And basically, I'm just gonna steal a little bit of your thunder, Gary, for a minute here. The idea there is to use their modeling software to simulate Category 5 hurricane event and to simulate the impacts to natural systems, to infrastructure, to housing, to business, to the business ecosystem. And Harry, do you want to say a few words about that? Because again, this is kind of a regionally important project that Tampa Bay is very successful at doing. So I wanted you folks to hear a little bit about that. Go ahead, Harry.
Thank you, Senator. Come here, Mike. Yes, so that's part of it. So part of it is updating. We previously had done this Project Phoenix. Project Phoenix in 2011, and then we did an update in 2020, and that was originally intended to be this hypothetical plausible worst case scenario of Category 5 hurricane directly hitting Tampa Bay, which obviously is worst nightmare, and to plan for it, prepare for it, and have people take it seriously when the storm is not there. So part of it would be updating that simulation, and then also we planned in 2020 to have a series of tabletop exercises to get the community together, kind of like we're doing right now, where we go through, okay, the storm is hitting, what's the immediate response? What are our plans for recovery in the medium and long term? Obviously, 2020, something happened and we couldn't do that. So we're hoping to actually update this simulation and then actually go around to all of our 6 counties and hold these tabletop exercises. And that's the idea behind this application.
Yeah, appreciate that. And one of the underlying imperatives of such an initiative is to improve communication between sectors that may not talk to each other very often, right? They talk to each other maybe during disaster conditions, but open up those channels of communication to break down some of the silos, right, between emergency management and the business sector and different constituencies and things like that. So it's a great effort. Ultimately, that reflects on kind of what we're doing here today. As Dr. Bella said in the beginning, is trying to break down the silos and look at projects in a very comprehensive, cohesive way, and to start thinking outside of the box. So Harry, thank you for sharing that. Appreciate that. And hopefully that provided a little bit of insight from a regional example of a project.
Thanks so much, Greg. Okay, Tom, I see that you put you're on camera. Did you want to say something? Oh, you're on mute.
I'm just computer literacy. But I would say it was very informative in some ways. That the biggest reason, and it was already said why I'm here, is I want to learn what everybody else has already experienced and are been able to accomplish, so I can bring it back to my little Berg Seminole. And I appreciate everything everybody's doing, and I appreciate all the comments and the ideas. And as I said in my small breakout group, my biggest fear is, being the small town I am, we can put them in a shelter, but how do we get them out if something happens and we get hit hard? And they can't stay there forever. And that's one of my biggest concerns. So I thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Tom. Can you just help us for geographic reference? What community are you representing?
Oh, I'm representing the city of Seminole in the center of Pinellas.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it. Sal, I see that you're on too. Did you want to say something?
No, our city manager and mayor are there today, so they pretty much covered everything that we've already been discussing going forward. But there are a lot of, this has been very informative today, and there's been a lot of information to process, and looking forward to looking at getting some projects done in the near future.
Okay, thank you, Sal. What community are you with, Sal?
The city of Port Richey.
Port Richey, thank you. Okay, and again, anyone else online in terms of what you may have discussed in your small groups as far as potential project ideas that you might want to bring to everyone's attention? Appreciate that you were able to use the opportunity to have some creative discussion. Yeah, Nathaniel, go ahead.
Hi, Nathaniel Martin from Pasco County Department of Public Works. I've been working on our vulnerability study, and I picked the project that I think is indicative of where we may be going as a county. And our friends in St. Pete and Newport Richey and Port Richey will be familiar with this problem. Is basically it's a sunny day flooding event, and the neighborhood is called the Green Key Estates. The roads get inundated, homes get inundated if there's any sort of storm event. On Adalia, people had to be evacuated, even though the Adalia didn't really hit us. It was pretty far offshore. And so the project right now is geared towards the everyday event. And we have a lot of communities, I think, at the start of this group meeting, they were showing the Sea Pines area. And I think we're just going to keep seeing more and more of that kind of event. So the project does increase conveyances out of the neighborhood in terms of stormwater, and it will do some to keep water out during high tide flooding. So that was our project.
Gotcha. So in the Green Key Estates that is prone to flooding, it doesn't necessarily take a hurricane, right? It could be just heavy rainfall.
That's right.
So how to build resiliency in that community. Okay, if you can make sure that you have included your, filled out one of the project summary sheets, and then you should have some instructions in the chat about how to make sure that gets over to us. We'll share that with the RPC. Actually, Sarah, if you don't mind, can I have an email to use? I know you're, okay, sarah@tbrpc.org. If you could go ahead and, any of you online, if you have completed project summary sheets, just go ahead and send them to Sarah, who's hosting the teams today. So you should see her online, but go ahead and email it to her, and she might be putting her email in the chat as well. Yep, and so just, and then she'll make sure, and RPC will make sure it gets to the right people. Okay, any other ideas online that we should cover? Any other ideas? Okay. I know before I hand it back to Greg, Len, did you want to say anything about the upcoming Tampa Bay Regional Resiliency Summit that you guys are hosting? Or do you want to just, I'm following Greg's lead and when he called on Harry, a little bit about the other effort, but.
Of course, I'll plug that. So, the summit, we're doing our fourth summit. It's coming up May 8th, 9th, and 10th. It's at the Hilton Clearwater Beach Resort. Nice location. We have a great lineup of speakers. And also we're having our 30th annual Future of the Region Awards. So if you have any really cool projects you'd like to enter, that deadline's coming up soon. We usually have about 400 people in attendance, and you're welcome to go on our site and sign up, register to join us. And I would also like to say, Harry mentioned, we were talking about Project Phoenix, and Sarah played a large role in that project as well. And if you haven't seen that video, it's worth a look. And it's also a great tool if you are showing the average citizen what you're trying to explain what their area might look like in that kind of cat storm. So take advantage of that. It's on our website. We've used it at Rotary clubs. We've used it all over the place. And the first time folks watch it, there's usually very quiet in the room. So, but it's a great tool for teaching folks. And thank you all for coming, and we're here to help facilitate and convene you all. So thank you very much.
That just sounds like another really cool opportunity for everyone to come together and really do some problem solving together, right? Okay, last call for now. I'm going to explain a second for project ideas. Just want to make sure if anybody has something that they want to say, either in person or online, you have that opportunity. But it's been a really great, productive discussion. I said last call for now because you should have received the project summary sheets digitally as well from Tampa Bay RPC, right? So say like you're thinking of something but you're not sure yet, feel free to fill it out later, send it to Sarah or Len at RPC, and they will make sure it gets to the right folks, okay? And so don't feel like this is the only time that you're gonna be able to share your ideas with the federal and state partners. And so what Bud would urge you to seize the moment. Don't wait forever. Okay. So do so relatively soon. All right. Greg, I guess I'll.
And mention lunches.
Oh, yes. For those of you online, we hope that you have a wonderful lunch today and so forth. For those of you in person, the Tampa Bay RPC has a great, and Pasco County is great for lunch. So lunch is here. It will be right outside here. And so shortly after our convening at adjournment, you're free to grab your lunch. You're free to stay here and just continue the network and fellowship with each other. Or if you have somewhere to go, that's fine too. But lunch is available for you. And so I know we wanted to make some closing remarks. Milton, did you want to say anything before we close?
Well,
okay.
and I host.
Well, for sure.
Quite quick. So I just, on behalf of Pasco County, want to thank all the folks that came here today to help us out. So I think we need to give them a round of applause for it. Thank you. This is, remember, this is the beginning of a new way of thinking and how we go to business. And you've heard all of our folks talking about creativity. It's going to take that to sustain our county through 2050 and beyond. So this is the beginning of it. We're going to keep moving this forward. My group, the Office of Strategy, and whatever else we're and all other duties assigned. We're here to help connect dots with you, and we thank you again all for being here today.
Thanks for hosting us. Okay, Ray or Milton, do you guys want to?
Thanks, Dr. Wells, for those kind remarks. Thank you for hosting us here, Ren and Sarah and the crew at Tampa Bay. Thank you for coordinating this effort. Thank you all for being here. Thank you all for being here for 4 hours. I know it's a big commitment to partake. Everybody's got got work to do, emails to catch up, and phone calls to make, and things like that. But this is important, take some time to really have an honest, candid discussion about how to move forward, right? I mean, this discussion today is the beginning of a discussion, it's gonna continue on. I'm here, I'm not going anywhere, I'm in Florida, so I'm always accessible, so please call me if you wanna discuss a potential project, I'm happy to do that, as is our other federal and state partners here. They welcome your conversations, that's why we do our jobs, because we're animated by trying to create a better future for the communities that we serve. Thank you for hosting us today, thank you for the candid discussions. We really appreciate it, we really appreciate your stick-to-itiveness, and I want to pass over to Bill, so thank you all.
And finally, last but not least, I just want to echo everything that's been said previously, and thank host and our RPC for great work you did in supporting us. And I don't want to forget about the partners and our state partners, both those that's online and those that travel down the people in person. We could not do the work that the RPC, the EPON does without the support that we get from our federal and state partners. So I just want to express my appreciation for all the great work that you support you for us. And that's all we have, and I think this was a great gathering today. Notes will be followed. We will get notes and the contact information to those. But if you didn't register already, send an email in the chat. Make sure you do that for those that's online. Thank you, and have a safe travel back home.
Yes, actually, one more thing, sorry. We do have contact lists before you leave, so if you want to grab that, and there's also some handouts over there as well. So make sure you grab those as well.
Thank you.